Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to take it a step further, and I wanted to go real deep with this. This is part two of the last space we had, I think, on Saturday, um, and it's real important. Maybe I should have had it this weekend, but today we're going to talk about operant conditioning. So get out your pens and paper, pencils and notepads, whatever you want to say. And we're going to look at how degeneracy is literally, I'm going to break it down with some visuals on how operant condition is used to spread degeneracy in our neighborhood. Now, when we go over the examples of operant conditioning, I want everybody in here to think about the system of welfare in the black community. Although we make up a small fraction of the welfare recipients, most of them are Caucasian. That's not necessarily the point. The point is, I want to illustrate how a system of rewards over time, rewards and punishments actually, over time condition, the whole sexy red mantra. Sexy red is a walking mascot for operant conditioning. Um, in more than one way, she represents operant conditioning. So let's jump right into it. I got a good visual for y'all. Now, keep in mind before we start that Dr. Amos Wilson said, "You're the rat." So black people were the rat. When you're studying rats in graduate school, it kind of makes things kind of like benign. Like that ain't me. What is a rat? Nah, the rat is you, man. So if y'all look in the jumbotron, I like this graphic for some reason, and I may share it more than once. Okay, so if y'all click on the example in the jumbotron for operant conditioning, now this weekend we talked about classical conditioning. Now, classical conditioning is the bell, some type of sound, ding, associating a sound with something, and then the sound goes off, and you make associations. And if it's done in a sophisticated manner, like in the movie Get Out, you can trigger behaviors, and theoretically, like in Get Out, you can trigger a uh, hypnotic. What's the word? A like that
Subliminal.
subliminal. Yeah, 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 yeah. Like that MK Ultra stuff. Like it gets real deep. I think at one it's called the alpha state. Well, ooh, remind me. Don't let me forget to talk about the alpha state. That stuff is real
Gamma,
interesting.
beta, theta, and alpha.
Yes, ma'am. I'm pretty sure it's alpha, but it's one
Hmm.
that I read. This the CIA has perfected to where they have women who are prostitutes, men who are murderers, where they give some external stimuli to make them execute a murder or
Like
sleep
the
with some
Manchurian candidate.
outstanding. Yes, ma'am. And unlike the dude who shot Bobby Kennedy, um, it, what was his name? Sirhan or something. He had no recollection of killing him. He was right there, walked up to him in front of everybody at a party in California, blew Bobby away, and all of a sudden he really didn't. And the Kennedy family believed him. They did not want him persecuted. He really didn't believe it. They did
They thought he
polygraphs
was a
on him.
tool. They just
Yep.
felt like he was used as a Manchurian candidate. Oh my goodness, I didn't even know that.
Yes, we might need to look into that. It's very interesting because it's Sirhan, I think is his name. But he had no recollection. He went up there, was sent on a mission, pow pow, shot him, and was like, "Why am I here?" Like was serious. They gave him polygraphs. I think somebody tried to kill him, but it didn't work out. But they gave him polygraphs, and he checked out. He's like, "What? Wait a minute. I don't know why I'm here. What's going on? Why are there people arresting me?" He didn't know.
I
Um,
think I forget. I think I looked his name up. Isn't he Middle Eastern?
yeah, he's from like Iran or something.
Okay.
It's very interesting. Um, so let's kind of talk about operant conditioning. If you look at the rat, you look at the jumbotron, you have positive reinforcement is introduced to increase behavior. Negative reinforcement is introduced to decrease behavior. So with operant conditioning, you have more of a mechanism for control, and it's a lot easier to do. So there it is. Isn't that complicated, class? Just that simple. So over time, generationally, the next group of children are not aware why they feel a certain way. So if you look at this equation for operant conditioning and you look at welfare, what's the positive reinforcement? Somewhere to stay, somewhere something to eat, food, a check to spend, right? For doing what? For not having a black man around. So negative reinforcement. If a black man's around, guess what? We're going to take away your money. That's negative reinforcement, right? So over time, the black community was intentionally um, operantly conditioned to view the black male as just a sex object or as a non-important factor in the family. And although the first, see, let me tell you how insidious this shit is. The first generation of our sisters um, didn't see the harm in it. I mean, I'm sure they had their pride, but the things we tell ourselves, like I'm just gonna do this just to get on my feet. We've all been there, I mean, including me. But when you have children in that system, the next generation views it as normal, and you have grandchildren. The grandchildren in this situation view it as normal and have certain attitudes towards men that they don't understand. I'm gonna tell y'all something very sad. I saw this play out. Um, my first year teaching history in Memphis, Tennessee. I was in seventh grade, and it was one of my hardest years actually. And I sat down with my kids and just we started talking futures. And I taught in a neighborhood called Frazier, which is the hustle and flow neighborhood. It was like just um, you know, pimping just going on in broad daylight, drugs, trap houses all over. But, I was there trying to save the world and had a long talk with my students. And it was just like I lost hope that year. My black men, all of them wanted to play basketball. We had the future talk. All of them wanted to play basketball, football, NBA, NFL. And that's kind of the norm. But what really touched me is my young ladies who were 11, 12 years old said they're just gonna get in. They knew about the system. They said I'm gonna do what my mama do. My mama just stay at home and get paid. That's viewed as not a point of shame. It's viewed as kind of like a luxurious life in certain areas. I don't know if y'all are aware of that, but they would tell me that I'm just gonna get a check and stay at home like
Yep,
mom.
I've
And
heard that before, and other people do it, but no one says anything. Like Native Americans, they get a check and they don't do anything but hang out. So I guess they felt like, maybe everybody doesn't have things to do. I can't figure it out, but I think everyone does have things to do, but they may just, not really know what to do when they get themselves into those types of situations.
well, you studies when I was in grad school education, the studies are out that you generally don't rise higher than your parents. And that has nothing to do with your mental capacity. Some of my students were absolutely brilliant. But that's science that your parents, like, I forgot the statistics, but it was a statistic that if at least one parent had a college degree, the child was at least two times more likely to get a college degree. A degree. And I just knew, I didn't know how, but I just knew I it had to do with I do it or uncle or having a family member. We call it self-efficacy. If you have a family member or a close friend or a role model, but
Mhm.
family is really important. And you see if they can do something, you do it. So that applies to the welfare system. Now, let me get something straight. I'm not judging my sisters for doing that. I don't want to sound like I'm sitting on some damn high horse judging them. Because let's talk some real talk. From a certain point of view, that shit makes sense. Don't have to worry about going to school. all you got to do is have a baby and just and sit at home. That's almost, if y'all can really just deep down admit it, that's kind of logical. But that's not the point of this space. The point of this space is to show y'all how degenerate behaviors manufactured from outside of our community. We have no control over those government systems, and they are intentionally put in
Yeah.
place. Yes, go ahead, one.
No, I said we get it. You know, like I said, everything we do is demonized. And yes, the Native American has gotten some bad press, but they legit are on welfare. They're all the refugees are on permanent welfare. I used to mentor Southeast Asian kids. Their mothers and fathers are all on permanent welfare. It's called refugee assistance, and it's forever. They keep telling me that it's not, but no, it was. And the mother went out and got a job bagging groceries for 1 week and just couldn't hack it. She couldn't learn how to drive, and she couldn't take the um, pressure of bagging groceries. So she went right back and did what she did. Uh, but nobody busts their chops for it. But they're all on us, you know. Oh, you're just having more children so you can be on the welfare. I've heard everything, and everyone is doing the same things. They're having a bunch of children, they're on welfare, white women, Native American women, all of them. But they're only worried about what we're doing. That's the odd thing.
Right. I love that Wani brought that up. That is such a powerful and relevant counterpoint. The point that other ethnic groups are more on welfare than us, but the semantics used make it look like they're not. And the focal point is on us when there is um, a element of pride within the foundational Black American community. In my hometown of Birmingham, I was on food stamps. I was. My mom was Section 8. I'm proud of it now, but I was not proud of it then. You know what I'm saying? We were like, I remember being in the hood, and we were scared to death to let people know that we were on food stamps and EBT. But it's come to find out everybody was. My point of bringing that up is there was a pride element in that. Like, we weren't just like welfare kings and welfare queens. We were kind of shamed a little bit. But that one area in Memphis is a different type of city. And that one area, it was just so normalized that uh, degeneracy over time had been programmed into this neighborhood and viewed as cute, viewed as sexy, like the whole sexy redism. Kanye, talk to us.
What's going on with y'all, family?
27 was up there first.
What'd you say, Money?
27 up there the whole time. We've been
Oh,
ignoring
I'm
seven.
I'm not trying to. I'm
No, I
sorry, Kanye. Go
know.
ahead.
I know.
Seven.
I don't,
Oh, it's
I
all
wasn't
good.
looking at the screen.
And if I do
Thank you,
that,
thank
please
you,
call me out.
thank you. That's funny. Look, I'm sorry. Let me get serious. But thank you, Wani, for acknowledging me. Yeah, you guys were talking about Sirhan, and operant conditioning. I could say a lot about that. But Sirhan, he was a Christian Palestinian, and I think he was a fall guy who shot RFK. RFK Jr. in interviews said that, and he names the person who actually shot his dad. And you were talking about that welfare the Native Americans get. They get those per capita checks because these reservations they sit on a lot of natural resources, oil and gas, especially the Navajo. So they get those per capita checks, and these other reservations they sit on those. They sit on a lot of minerals, and so yeah, they get welfare. No one complains about it. No one tells them that they're lazy and they need to pull themselves up
Right.
by their bootstraps. And we get welfare as black people, and there's a lot to be said. When we need it, we need it, and I think it's a good thing that we try to feel embarrassed when we get it
Mm-hmm.
because it forces us to work hard, and that's
Mm-hmm.
a good thing. I don't have a problem with that, and uh, And something happened in the late 1960s that just where we after Martin Luther King died to where we just I don't want to go into it. I'm going to yield the mic.
Yeah, and seven. I wasn't trying to ignore you. I didn't.
No, no, we
I
just
I ain't
didn't
didn't.
make
mad.
it this
I ain't mad.
time.
Man, it's your
We're
space. I
fine.
ain't mad.
I'm terrible
Me
at doing
too.
that.
We need somebody. We need an actual co-host because I don't look.
Right.
No, but I just wanted to say people like the Navajo, they didn't come over here, 20,000 years ago. In fact, they're finding out that none of them did. It was closer to 13, but they came over about 3,000 years ago. So if you walk across the Bering Strait 3,000 years ago, you can be a mooch on the government. But if you come over kicking and screaming and scooped up with everybody in a big circle and thrown on the plantation, and then discriminated against if you try to get a job, you're not allowed to get help. Am I understanding this correctly? I mean, they literally don't want to hire us because we're black, and then they have the audacity to get mad because someone got on welfare. We should be on permanent welfare, guaranteed income, since you want to be a racist ass.
Facts. Yeah. So I love the fact that Seven brought up that we are. It's a good thing to have. I don't know if shame is a good thing, but to have just a little bit of pride to say, you know what, we just gonna be on this for a minute till we get on our feet. But I wanted to identify that neighborhood in Fraser, a little subdivision in Memphis. They call it the Bay because it's right next to the Mississippi River, so they call it the Bay. This we live in the Bay, but um, certain neighborhoods have been on so many generations of welfare that in the Bay, at least in 2016, it was that was cute. You know what I'm saying? It was cute to come outside with a bonnet and brag on your EBT card. They made it cultural. This was pre-sexy red, but I think that type of culture created the need for a sexy red, where you know.
Wait,
Anyway, Kanye.
okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Wani.
I was just gonna say I noticed it in my family when my cousin was bragging that she got pregnant and she said, well, I can get my own apartment and I can do this and that.
Right.
And she still had her boyfriend over there in the apartment. So yeah, they started to be, where the younger girls that got pregnant in high school started bragging about it. So that's where I came into the picture.
Yes, and that's what I heard in a middle school classroom is I'm gonna have my own stuff. I'm gonna be independent and that's so terrible. That's operant conditioning 101. I'm gonna give you a big old piece of cheese, literally and figuratively, if you go and have unmarital procreative sex, like you're getting rewarded for degenerate behavior. So over time, degenerate behavior is not looked at as not only not looked at as taboo, but it's looked at as the thing to do. Like just as if going to work is a point of pride for us. You know, making children and sitting around with a bonnet on was looked at as pride for with some of these kids, and I'm not even making a joke. It's actually a real hard thing to witness, given how young they were. Kanye, talk to us.
Yeah, essentially just normalize degeneracy. Um,
Yep.
and it's like, well, if everybody's doing it, then there's really no shame in it, right? It's like, but that's what makes it so sad. And I try not to judge too harshly because you don't get mad at a bird for getting caught in a bird trap. You understand the trap is designed to catch the bird. So when you put people in a situation where and this America in itself was deindustrialized. This wasn't just like a accident. They used to have vocational buildings in high school. They teach you how to be a plumber, electrician, and shit like that. They took all that out. I mean, they closed down all the Ford, GM plants around the country, and then you lead people with quote unquote desperation. Now, granted, it was supposed to be just a quick stepping stone, right? But with anything, it gets abused, right? So with it being abused, they're not oblivious. They know what's going on. They just don't care, right? Because they would rather give you everything so they have the ability to take everything, right? So it's like for them, it's not even about being taken advantage of. It's about them remaining to have control, right? Because they know if they have control over you, then everything that they want, they get from you, right? Which is essentially your vote and your support. So nobody's going to vote against their own well-being, right? Once you start getting complacent with things, it's like back in the day, like everybody knew their multiplication timetables, right? It was a badge of honor to know them. Now you don't really know them as much because you have a calculator in your hand at all times. Like my teacher said, I wouldn't. Anyway, but the point is like it's manufactured essentially, right? And then you do it by creating these conditions in which people have to rely on it. And then once the majority does it, and then you have like a lot of people preach it too. Like like I remember when I first got out of school, high school, when I was trying to figure out what I'm gonna do for school and whatever. Mom was like, "Well, go down there and get some food, down do this." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that. Nah, cool on that shit." But it's like I had to refuse that because if I didn't, you get caught up in the system. I don't want to get caught up in the system, and I do think that a lot of us are starting to wake up and be hip to it. But a lot of other groups do it though. Like it's not just us. A lot. If you ever go down there just for any reason at all, it won't just be us down there. You'll see them. I think some part in Kentucky, I want to say it's like 97% of the town is on it, and it's a
Yes.
majority European. You said what?
Yes.
Yes,
Oakley, it starts with a O.
yeah, someplace in Kentucky, but I know the majority of them are on it. And then and it was the crazy part. They play the game way different from us. A guy, a friend of mine in Michigan, went to school together. He, his girlfriend is like Asian and black or something like that. Anyway, long story short, she gets Section 8. Now he owns the house that she's renting, and he's renting it out to her, and she's paying the mortgage. So essentially, Section 8 is paying the mortgage for his house, right? And he keeps it up, he maintains it, but they're gonna pay out that house for him, right? Just an insane thing when you think about it. That's the type of crook shit they be on. Like I know you guys hear about those
Yep.
SNAP benefits of those people who get caught up, those, and they're like, oh, well, SNAP fraud. What are they doing? Well, they'll take that same EBT card, right, and they'll run it up. Like they'll buy gas, cigarettes, and shit like that and it goes right into their account. So they the ones that get jammed up for all this fraud and stuff. But I digress.
Well, out here, they have so many Vietnamese people on welfare that basically um, all of those offices are all filled with Vietnamese, Mexican. It's like a wave. First, they were all Mexicans, and they were getting all of the benefits. I used to work with this lady. She was a German immigrant, and she was always complaining about the welfare office because she had to go there with her mother because her mother was elderly. Anyway, she said all the Mexicans were in there, and what could she do? Because they don't cater to people that speak German. Blah 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 blah. Everybody was immigrant, and this was long time ago. So now it's just waves of it. Now I'm hearing that it's like I'm missing one of the groups, Cambodia. I mean, like they speak their language, and they're letting them run the office that much. They also run the claims departments in different departments in the post office. I see. I know what these people do because I've worked with them. I've worked with immigrants, and I know where they work, and I know the sectors they control. And it's not picking strawberries for your table.
Yeah. How do they make it into that type of leadership and we don't? I
Remember
don't.
another place in Minnesota? They control the welfare department.
Somalians. Yep.
Yeah.
Illa Omar, right? It's like the same thing with anything. You can take a look at the Brigham Young University, the Mormons out there in Colorado. Polygamy. This is really
Yep.
what they do to control it. So it's like if you got one guy over there and he has like maybe a couple $1,000 and he has three wives, all on feeding the welfare system, and they just live in the same house. There's no law against that. Well, they did it for us with fire codes and shit, but that's another story for a different day. But they build it up. Eventually, somebody goes to school. They took over the nursing industry. The Filipinos few years back, there was a bunch of them over
Yep.
here, and they were sending their money back home to men. But the point is, it only takes a few, and once they get in there, majority rules. So before you know it, then like it's it's the same thing with the Western Command or the Naval Command. They're all like some form of Asian over there. I still think that's
Wow.
wild. I think that's strange, and that definitely needs some looking into. But I just get it. It happens over time.
Well, the military, I noticed is the branches are kind of like racially. you know, like for instance, like I noticed a lot of the Marine Corps was dominated by Hispanics. The Navy, the Navy was a big mix from what I saw, but it was a lot of. You're right. I didn't even realize it, but when you brought that up the other week, it dawned on me like, wow, yeah, a lot. Most of the naval officers I know were Asian. The Air Force is dominated by white dudes and white women. Um, there's a solid black constituent in the Air Force, but I'm just saying the military is kind of like it's it's like racially like I think certain racial groups kind of migrate towards certain
I
branches.
would say
I
that, but if when you start looking at leadership and they all look the same, and it's not
Yeah,
even like,
leadership is an
you know what I mean.
exception.
Then it's like they're not even all like, they're not even majority, right? So if the force was majority Asians and leadership was Asian reflected, that makes sense. But if it's majority European and reflects Asian, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, I will agree with that. Leadership is a different ball of wax. Seven Ford.
Yeah, thanks. You were talking about the military. Well, I did time in the Navy, and when I was in, I saw a lot of Filipinos. They're cool people. I don't have no problems with them, but they were in certain positions like CSs. That's the rating that does, like cooking. They were in the GSC rating. That's the people who do electrical work on the gas turbines. So yeah, I saw a lot of that. And you mentioned the Marine Corps. Well, I got a story for you. So, one of the
Uh
people
oh.
who graduated from the unit I graduated from was Anthony Henderson, and he went into the Marine Corps. And he went in as a JAG, and he switched over to infantry. And this dude was stellar. He was in Afghanistan, and the base was under attack. And he put together a fight plan, and he beat the shit out of the Taliban. He should have been made a general a long time ago, and they refused to make him a general because he was black. He kissed no ass, something like me, and they eventually made him a general because the because the racism would have been too overt. And yeah, so they made him a general. He's the first black Marine general who for infantry, because there had been some other Marine Corps black generals, but they kept them out of infantry because that's supposed to be, you got to keep the black people out of the infantry. And when you notice that a lot of black people who go in the Marine Corps, they are like, they're in supply, they're in something else. They try to keep them out of infantry because because it would
Hmm.
set, because me personally, I think it would humiliate these white boys that they can't fight like black people can. Yeah, so I've noticed that. With that, I yield the mic.
What was the guy's name again? I
Anthony
think I know who you're talking
Henderson.
Frank
about.
Peterson.
Yeah, yeah, we
Anderson
graduated from
Henson.
the.
Okay, I think I seen it.
Yeah,
Read an
yeah, it was a
article
New
on him.
York Times. Yeah, we graduated from the same unit, and when he graduated, you had to be hardcore because they had a lot of
Yeah,
abuse. And when I got there, they got rid of a lot of the abuse, and we still had a high attrition rate.
the Marines are the man. They're hardcore, man. I trained with them. I got selected as a really high honor to do some training with them, and they basically the Marines kind of follow that whole Spartan philosophy of basically half of the people in OCS, like half of did y'all know that half the members of OCS don't make it? Like the Marines have it baked into the cake that only 50% are gonna make it into like certain divisions like officer like the officer
Yep, they make you, they give you a
second
PT
lieutenant.
test when you first get there. If you fail the PT test, you out.
It's terrible.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
probably got to get like a 280 on it out of
Yeah, but
300.
that's why you supposed to just do all TC then commission that way.
Yeah,
There yeah,
yeah, I
that's the
did
best
that.
way to do it.
And at my unit, like PT was conducted by the Marines. Almost nobody who graduated from my unit was a fat.
Right.
And you had fats in your unit. Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, like when I got in the Navy, I was like, how you get commissioned from the Naval Academy, man? You got a gut being bigger than I do. So I was like, yeah, like how do these dudes become officers?
It ain't who you know, it's how you know.
Yeah, that's I because
Like, what do you
I
mean?
used to
Like, cause I
I
was in
used
there, I saw them.
yeah, the academies are very political. I used to represent. I used to send kids. I was a vice president of aerospace education with the Air Force Association in Memphis, and I would send kids occasionally to get to go to the academy, and you have to get a two letters from state senators, a state senator or a state represent and or state representative, and you need one letter of recommendation from a United States senator, and that game was a
It ain't
monster.
who you know, it's how you know.
Right. Yep. I one more Marine story. This is how crazy the Marines are. When I got dropped off at Paris Island, it was a liaison, a first lieutenant that was coming to meet me, and he jogged like 10 miles to come meet me, and he had a white shirt on, and it was blood on like blood like on his chest on both sides. I was like, dude, you all right? He's like, yeah, I jog. If I jog too much, my nipples bleed. So this dude was jogging so hard that
Oh,
like his
excuse
shirt
me.
his
Okay.
shirt was
I used
rubbing
to
up
have
against
that.
his.
I used to put tape on my
What?
nipples.
Whoa, whoa,
That's
whoa, whoa,
exactly
whoa,
what
whoa,
he
whoa.
said.
Hold up.
That's a good. Hey, that's a bar. It will rhyme
Your
on the
boobs can
Western
bleed.
tongue. Yeah.
Your boobs can bleed.
Yeah, my dude had on a white shirt and it was blood on it. I was like, man, you all right? He's like, but that's exactly what he said. He said, yeah, when you run too much, your nipples
It-
chafe. And,
oh,
and
it's
he's
chafing. I thought blood was coming out of it like he was nursing a vampire or something.
nursing a vampire.
No,
What's
no,
happening?
like when it's dry and you sweat, yeah, it rub that shirt, it rubs against you. Yeah, I mean it
It's
sucks.
friction caused it to do that. It was crazy. It's unfortunate.
nursing a
That was
vampire.
funny. That was funny.
Wonderful, Wani. All right, so back to conditioning. So just a quick review. The other day we talked about classical conditioning, which again uses an outside stimuli. I'm about to put it in a jumbotron. An outside stimuli to control your actions. For those of you who weren't in here, so classical conditioning is a little bit different because if you look in the jumbotron, classical conditioning you use uh, a neutral stimuli like a bell, a whistle, or it can be a picture, some type of symbol, auditory or visual or both, um, and associate it with something you like food or sex or whatever. And over time, you condition somebody to react in a physical manner based off an external control. So the classic case was the dog was given food, but before he was given food, the dude would hit a bell, ding, and over time, just the ringing of the bell alone would make the dog kind of taste food. Classical conditioning is dangerous as hell. It's almost like putting it's like a game controller for human behavior. If y'all remember Get Out, she had something. What would she do? Tap the
Tea, cup with the
Yep,
spoon.
yep. So we're hit. Our community is, and to Wani's prior point, both communities are. The white community is as well. But what I will say is a lot of these tactics seemingly are tested out on us. So we're hit harder. But America is full of a bunch of conditioning, and it's very important to condition um, foundational Black Americans at the bottom of the chart. I want to show y'all something out in my book. Um, Hold on, let me find it. I'll take a picture of it. It's a in my first academic publication. I argued that foundational Black Americans need to be at the bottom of the American hierarchy chart because, like Dr. Claude Anderson said, We America is the old royalist system. Know if y'all can see this. Okay. Yeah. Let me use this photo. So what does that mean? That means that Europeans wanted to become royal because in Europe, royalty was based off of bloodline. So the concept of marriage was you're going to be royal based off of your lineage, off of being white, being European, quote unquote white. And in order for that idea to work, in order to have a king and queen, guess what you need? You need a peasant class. So if you look at my chart, I call it the 1776 New American Hierarchy chart. Now the old one was on the other page is the the prior 1700s monarchy chart, which is king, queen, what you learned in middle school. But the new one um, had a lower caste of peasantry and an upper caste of peasantry, all peasants. But the lower class was I put African slave. This is before I found out about foundational Black Americans. But uh, the lower caste was at the very bottom. It's on the left. Now, why am I bringing this up? In order to have an elite class, you need a bottom. It's just the way it works. In order to have a king, you need a peasant. And foundational Black Americans were identified first and foremost as the very bottom of the barrel, the peasant class, rock solid bottom. And given that fact, these conditioning mechanisms are a absolute necessity to keep the system functioning in the way it's functioning. So the purpose of this space is to kind of make some of you aware, spread this word to other people of these techniques that are used against us, so you can kind of fight the techniques.
Remember when the Chinese people jacked up the Europeans with opium? Sounds familiar.
Opium
Yeah,
wars.
buddy.
Yeah, and they had the Box Rebellion. Oh, that's my favorite subject in history. Oh my God, these people are Satan for crying out loud. They forced an entire population on opium, and then when they rose up, they called in the rest of the world to come kill them all. Slaughtered but thousands of people across Beijing and all of China. Yeah, that's when they said those spears of influences. It's crazy. It's crazy. History's an interesting place.
It really is.
It's it's wild. I've always wondered, did China forget about, is China want revenge for that? You know what I'm saying?
No, no, they definitely want revenge. Like listen,
COVID-19.
their whole gang.
COVID-19.
Well, see, it's them. Like how, man, history is very interesting because Japan actually beat Russia in a war, right? And then the rest of the world stepped in and was like, "Nah, we can't let that happen. Y'all can't beat these people." And then so they just kind of like, "All right, fuck it," just took it off on China. They literally took it. Everybody just like, "All right, let's just gang up on China," and that's exactly what happened. So it's like it's crazy to see that type of shit go on. But yep, that is the world.
Yeah, that whole opium war stuff is so wild. They don't really teach it in schools. I got in trouble for teaching it 4 years ago. But
Why?
yeah, because of critical race theory, just nonsense. You can't in the state of Tennessee, you can't teach a lesson that makes and I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like you can't teach a lesson that makes it appear that one race of people or ethnic group suffered due to the actions of another group of race of people, or
What?
That's
That's
um,
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. But so that lesson kind of got me in a little trouble because I was teaching that the Chinese and Asian subgroup were um, suffering due to the English actions, even though that's exactly what the fuck happened. The Chinese, the English got the Chinese hooked on opium, and not only did they get them hooked on opium, do you know that they turned a large portion of the females in China into prostitutes?
Like very large. Then took Hong Kong, forced man. Listen, it's so much evil shit they did.
Shanghai was the whore of the Orient.
Right.
They literally was sending they was sending their boxers around, right? to literally beat up the Chinese martial artists, and it's a different form of fighting, right? There's just more like art, performative, but the combat that they were doing was it was very brutal, very brutal.
Tell me about this. They were beating up martial artists.
So if you ever see like an MMA fighter versus a traditional martial artist,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the traditional martial artist gets his ass whooped because it's like they're doing moves like the counter moves. It's like it's choreographed essentially, right? So when you actually in a fight, it's different. So they're like, oh, we're just gonna spar, and they're thinking, oh, okay, we're just doing our little Wu Chang shit, and then they get punched in the face, and they don't stop. They kill them. Like it's all over.
Wow,
Like
that's crazy.
literally, it's all over. I'm trying to think. There's a movie about this shit. It was starring Jet Li, and he was basically talking about it. There was a very light version of it, but yeah, they were actually murdering these people. And they
No,
were
I
doing.
was just writing about Shogun and all the martial arts that the Japanese used for their military and stuff, and I just wondered. I didn't hear that. I
Well,
hadn't
the
heard that.
Japanese used Taekwondo. Like they were more. They were way more efficient. And then
Taekwondo is Korean.
um,
You mean karate?
there you go. Thank you. Um, yeah, but the Japanese were very way more
Oh
efficient.
my God, I didn't even put the type of martial arts they use.
I see exactly what you're saying with that because martial arts like karate and taekwondo have form and elegance and like kind of a little beauty to it, whereas MMA was just like it's just like brutal. Yeah, that's wild. I wouldn't want to fight, you know, some of those guys.
But even to the title, right? The degeneracy thing, right? But then they'll blame the triads for being a part of the drug trade to this day, right? But then when you take a look at the history and who really started it and ramped it up, it was the British, right? The British, the Americans, the Germans, like everybody ramped it up, right? They created the drug trade that they quote unquote hate so much, yet they profit so much off of it, right? So it's like essentially what you did with the Chinese culture, right? At the time, was you forced an entire population to be drug addicts, desperate, right? Easy to control, docile, because there was so many of them. And what happens down the line with these people? A lot of those degeneracy situations pop right back up. The gambling, the drug use, it's all still there. They never actually fully recover from that.
Yeah, yeah, and I I have my own theories on. You're right. You're pointing to that English um that English narrative machine that has to make everybody look bad. Why do y'all think they do that? Why is it important for the English to make everybody look like the bad guy? Because the Chinese
I
were made to
don't
be
know.
goofy. What is that
They want to
about?
claim
They
moral
do
high
it to
ground.
everybody. They do it to other Europeans. Remember, they were over here fighting the other Europeans. They denied that the Vikings are even in North America, and yet they have tons of settlements. They classify everybody, even in their writings, they classify everybody as, you know, ignorant, barbarians, and the whole time it's them.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Is it a smoke screen to try to keep people off their back? But they did it to the Irish, you know what I'm saying? To their next door
Yeah.
neighbors.
They treat all of them like they're, subhuman. Welsh, Scottish, all of them, they treat them like they're, redheaded stepchildren.
And even more importantly, why do we let them get away with this?
I don't. I
How does
call them a
that
bunch
work?
of names. But that's just me.
I mean, I refer to their Bible to come up with a name for them. Um, and it says the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And there's only one group that's followed that pattern religiously. So do with that what you will.
Yeah, that's a fact, my friend. That's a fact. So I wanted to kind of post um fuck my baby daddy because it that really that video I do like that video like really proves the point of this room. It drops a mic how operant conditioning is used. Well, oh fuck my baby daddy got like operant and classical conditioning in it. Cause she has um um I just got a text. She has like the whole sound things in there. Well, I don't want to sing that song. Hold on one second. Let me find it. I'm gonna put it in.
You may want to
It's
just
the
put it
end
in.
of opera.
You know he wants to sing it. He wants to
Well, he
sing
can
the
just put it
song.
in a
No.
jumbo time. People can click on it if people can click on it too.
Go ahead, get it out. Everybody put up with me when I wanted to sing "They Not Like Us" 10,000 times a day.
Uh,
Well, I'm a dude.
Whew,
I can't
go
finally
really
ahead
got
be
it
and
out of
sing
singing.
it,
my
Wani.
system.
Sing your song,
Thank you.
Wani.
Nope, I'm shy now.
Yeah. Everybody looking at Wani. Hold on, y'all. I'm looking for it. And it's a very clever ass song. It's
I can't hear anything.
You gotta turn your voice isolation off, Professor.
oh, okay. Yeah. The yeah, I was about to say technology is amazing. I can't believe y'all didn't hear that. But I'm gonna put it in Jumbotron. But but yeah, like this song, I want y'all to listen to. We're gonna listen to some classical conditioning. So when it comes on, dong, they hit a gong, and the music's building, so it's like gets you in the zone, dong. But that's classical conditioning. If y'all would click on F my class, if you would click on F my baby daddy, um, and listen to that gong that's hitting the beginning, bang, and then it's like, and then she's singing the lyrics. So you're opening the song with classical conditioning, and in the middle of the song, she talks about all the stuff she has from living this lifestyle. That's operant conditioning. That's positive reinforcement used to increase the behavior. So she talks about Hellcats and all the shit we want, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know that psychologists were hired to help her do this song.
I think
They've
they
been
wrote it for.
they've been doing this for years. Back in the 50s, they caught some subliminals being used in commercials and they admitted to it, but then, continued to do it. And I know that they work with subliminals because they have all of those entrainment. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but those entrainment videos that are, they're like sounds that alter your brain waves. They know how to do it and they've been doing it. Okay, they just, that's what they do. That's their little secret weapon on the commercials. That's why me, a vegan, can watch a commercial at the doctor's office because I don't have a TV because I'm not watching commercials. Even I did, I'd block all the commercials like I block them on my laptop and apps. But if I accidentally watch a commercial, I'm literally triggered to go to those stores. I have like a moment where it makes me want a hot dog. It makes me want these things that I don't even eat, that I haven't eaten in decades. But it triggers you back to when you did eat them. And oh, now I'll just get a vegan version of it. That it makes you hungry. This is one of the reasons why people are overweight. It's not just the food quality, it is medication. It's triggers, subliminal triggers of people trying to trick you to eat things that are no good for you to eat. But I just wanted to mention though, it is triggers of um, you see these commercials and they even put it in the shows. They'll mention something to make you buy the product. So it's very powerful, even on someone who's vaccinated against it, like I am.
Oh yeah, yeah. The work has been done. The color sequence. I have a tuning fork somewhere around here. That's keyed in middle C. Professor Chris Hedges says middle C. The study's been done to show that middle C is the most pleasant sound across the board on the human ear. So when you go to casinos, those machines are tuned in middle C. And if y'all click on "Fuck My Baby Daddy," I'm pretty sure that I'm not a musician, but that sounds like middle C. That gong that goes off. Ding, ducking the daddy, fuck my baby daddy. You know that bell is like. You think of how fucking brilliant that is. They hit you with bam middle C, so you're like, ooh wow, I like the way that sounds. You don't even know why you like it, but you like it. But the point is, they know you like it. And they're using something that they know that human beings like to hear for whatever reason. I bet you somebody somewhere knows why we like it. They just ain't telling. But they use some studies that they know what we like and use something we like to help us buy into something that's going to destroy us. Isn't that
There's no
wild?
rules against it, though. There was supposed to be rules against subliminally programming people, but I guess they made a deal with the people that should be doing the rules and said, we'll just pay you bazillions if you shut up about us trying to make bazillions off of these goofballs.
Yeah. I saw it. The subliminal message, the marketing area of the world, the United States, possibly the world, is Madison Avenue. And I saw a documentary on YouTube that I can't find anymore, or I would post it in a jumbotron that talked about the subliminal messages. Basically, they followed some documentarists followed like a heavy marketing firm that was putting sexual innuendos in cartoons and shit, and like putting all kind of sexual innuendos and Calvin. If y'all remember Calvin Klein back in the '90s when it was a shit, um, there was all kind of hidden phallic symbol, just filth, just absolute filth. And this guy, this uh, documentarist, um, went up there and was trying to get an appointment. Like, hey, look, I see that you have like a phallic symbol right here. We see that you making a sexually suggestive material for minors. We see this. Can we meet with you so we can talk about this? And they just kept giving them a runaround. But this guy was exposing. He slowed down some of the videos that they filmed back in the '90s. He slowed them down like frame by frame by the damn nanosecond or something. And there were nanosecond images of filth, of just pornography hidden in commercials that were shown on like the normal airwaves. So you're watching something with your mom that when you're a kid and you think is very innocent, but there is a frame that you it's too fast for your
Right.
conscious mind to detect it. But your subconscious mind does detect it. So you're being programmed into
That's
being
supposed to
like,
be against the law, but they had a show about it on Columbo. Very, a hot topic, but I think it went away because they paid them to not regulate it, so they could do that to us. That's why I just don't watch any commercials.
They used to do that with movie theaters, right? So during the preview, like when the it's rolling, it'll flash buy popcorn real fast, right? And they made them a
oh wow,
subliminal
yeah.
program is what it was, like buy candy, buy popcorn, right? And people would actually go do it. Like, and then like when they found out, they had well, it's not they're not supposed to do it, but they still do it anyway. If you
Do
watch
you remember what they? I'm gonna look that up because they're not supposed to do that, and I know they're doing it, or else we wouldn't be, Go ahead.
Degenerate.
Right. Go, go ahead, Sevens.
Yeah. So, yeah, look, you don't know about subliminal advertisement. Look into the Camel 6 cigarettes. They got some stuff in there. But, you were talking about, like that fuck my baby daddy and all that. So today I had a coworker. She came to my office and, she sat down and she was she was just. I guess she just needed to speak to somebody to get it off her mind, and so we talked in confidence. But the shit she was telling me, relationships are weird these days. I'll yield the mic on that.
You
Yeah, I
ain't gonna
don't.
tell us
Yeah, I want to know why
what
they're weird.
hell
I agree with
happened.
you. I'll second it, but I want to hear this. What was she telling you?
Oh man, if she hears this, man, I'm gonna be in some shit. But like, just like how people, like she was telling me, like somebody in her family gave some Some dude in her family gave some other woman $22,000 in the Cash App. God damn, that is trick daddy shit. I'm like, God damn.
Wow.
What? And who got in
Yeah.
trouble?
Probably he did because of his
I
wife
mean, his
that he
wife
don't.
was like, "What the hell? Just a random woman?"
Well, no, it's some woman he's seeing on the side.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't want to go into it, but
Okay, so he's
because
cheating
this
and he
person
got
spoke to me in confidence.
okay, so he's
Hmm.
cheating and he got pimped out of the money, basically.
Yeah, this is some trick daddy shit.
Right.
Like when I was growing up, we used to have that. Like there was this song by from this New Orleans rapper called "Bust Down." Trick Daddy coming out the pocket to knock it. You better learn the game, Trick Daddy. I remember that song growing up, but goddamn, relationships are weird these days.
They're
Yeah, that's
weird.
not a relationship. That's something else. You gotta call that something different.
That is something. I don't even know what that is.
That's a strange arrangement. What you gotta call that?
He
That's a
needs,
contract.
Yeah.
he
And
needs
that
to
was just
stop
one of
watching
the
commercials.
that's just part of the shit she told me
Well, don't tell too much of the
today. That's just
confidence now.
one
We might not
thing.
trust you no more.
Yeah, yeah. She's probably on this
Yeah, don't say
space.
too much now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going into the rest, but that was just one thing she told me, and like, but goddamn, man, it is fucked up out here.
Yeah, well, not for her. She got 22 grand. Listen, somebody made out like a bandit. I am struggling to get haircut money. It's crazy.
Yeah, guys, but just to revert back to the and I know I keep jumping on that song that I put in the jumbotron, but as a educational psychologist, it's jam packed full of operant conditioning, classical conditioning. She says, she calls herself a fine ass B, ain't in the house mad. That's negative reinforcement, right? Like I'm fine as hell. I ain't in the house mad. She's negative. Like it's so jam packed full of strategic. Like Kanye was saying, they probably wrote it for her. Like looking at that from a looking at that song and that I haven't even analyzed the video yet, but looking at the song from listening to the song from a strategic point of view, you got a middle C gong happening before the song even comes on. Now remember what I said earlier about classical conditioning being kind of like an Xbox controller for humans. That 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 stimuli, that outside stimuli, that sound is like a button, like turn them on. All right, human, you're on. Now listen, you know what I'm saying? And then you hit them with positive reinforcement. Or no, I guess that's negative reinforcement, right? Because she's saying F her baby daddy. That's negative. Negative reinforcement introduced to decrease a baby. Oh my God, I just thought about it. That's negative reinforcement. So the lyrics F my baby
Black
daddy is
black
negative
man
reinforcement.
bashing. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
See, it's where it gets
Negative reinforcement.
complicated, though, right? Because it's positively enforcing a negative thing.
But it's perfect. It's cyclical. It's a system used to achieve a goal. That like Nikki was just saying, down with the black man, up with her degeneracy. So if you could boil that song down in a sentence, it would be like down with black men, up with hood rat,
Yep, no, down with productive relationships, up with dysfunction.
up with this fun. That's
Yep,
even
and you
better.
remember when she was pregnant? I don't know if you saw her performing while she was pregnant, Professor. They always had her on stage with no shoes on and a big old pregnant belly.
What was the point of I've heard barefoot and pregnant, but what's the point of
They're
that?
trying to push these negative stereotypes. She's barefoot, pregnant, alone, and the black man is gone.
Oh geez. Barefoot pregnant means poor, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, and she played into that shit. Wow.
No, I think she's manufactured. Like, I think, like, you take a look at, listen. When she first came out, her first song was Pure Degeneracy, right? The first line viral was Pure Degeneracy, right? They take her and they pair her with the most recognizable hip hop artist outside of Snoop Dogg in the world, Drake.
Right?
What the hell are we doing here? Like, he
Drake who?
charges. You said what now?
Drake who?
Exactly. Well, I mean, formerly known, kind of, him and Kamala got the same thing going on. But anyway, the point is, at the time before his unfortunate, demise at the hands of the one great Kendrick Lamar, he was very, very popular, right? And they pair her with him, and I'm just thinking to myself, this dude charged upwards $10 million for a feature. I know that's not in a label budget. So are you doing this pro bono? And if so, why? There has to be something greater from on the back end. And then you start to see that she's being pushed heavily to the kids, right? She's going to the schools and then
There
lounges.
you go,
And it's like,
Kanye.
huh,
Bravo. That
normalize degeneracy, right? And then it's like,
Yes,
and they
that's the
and they
goal.
he's
reinforce
part
it
of
with
a
these.
system.
He's part of the system. And ladies and gentlemen, like Kanye just said, why was Drake there? Let's go back to operant condition. I love operant conditioning because it's so simple. What is positive reinforcement introduced to increase a behavior? I'm gonna put Drake with this unknown lady to increase your your level of respect, like instant cred. That was positive reinforcement, ultimately used to um destroy our what'd you say earlier, Kanye, our productive relationships.
Yeah, it makes productive relationships look terrible. Like it's sad.
Wow. I need to do
I'm
some
still
more with this.
recovering from whoever put a leash on Beyonce's neck and yanked it up to that podium. Who did that and what does she owe? What's the point of being a billionaire if you have to get up there and look cringe and walk over there with a woman dressed as a man to make it look like you're in a little gay couple just for 5 seconds? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah,
I
let's
think
analyze it.
okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead,
I
bro.
heard an interesting theory on this. And the guy was like, said they called Beyonce, and they was like, all right, how much for a show? And they said the show price was 75 million, right? Some astronomical number like that. But the walkthrough 15. And they cheaped out and did the walkthrough. So they got the troll. It's a joke, but I think kind of like they couldn't afford her price,
But what
right?
about her face? She
I
looked like she was under duress.
don't think she wanted to be there.
No, not at all. That's the part that's scary. You have billions of dollars and you don't want to be somewhere, but your ass is there, right? So
That's
you're a slave.
Yeah,
You want to keep your
yeah,
billions of
that
dollars, right?
exactly.
I'm not going to be anywhere that I don't want to be if I have billions of dollars.
Somebody made that analysis of Oprah several years ago. They're like, Oprah's a billionaire. Why does she have to keep going to work like that?
Well, Kanye West told everybody the truth. He said, "I can't retire if I wanted to." He says in my contract, I got to
Wow.
keep making music. And he was like, when he tried got his contract, Adidas took $200 million for him instantly. He said, and the banks were okay with it. Like, what the fuck? Like, they just took my money. It's like, damn. So it's like they
Wow.
don't really own shit. Like, I
They
mean, cause
don't.
think about it. Until it's
They're
until it's in your
renting
hand,
their
it's not yours.
lives. They're renting their lives. That's why that time, this is a long time ago, and they said Tony Braxton's car got repossessed. I said, wait a minute, hold up, hold up, hold up. How? This person is a popular singer, and I think she had already won a Grammy. How is her car getting repossessed? Well, you don't play ball, your car gets repossessed. How does that happen? Remember, they kept doing that to Michael Jackson? Oh, he's going to be bankrupt. Like, how?
Yeah, I remember that. How? Yeah.
He's been making money since he was 5. And then the other one, Prince, he's broke. He doesn't have any. I mean, every time I would turn
How?
around, like, how?
And what happened to Prince's money? So many questions to be asked.
I don't know.
See, and that's
Yeah.
it's what they play this game, right? It's a whole game going on and we don't get chance, we don't see it, right? Until like years from now, you start to find out, okay, this is what the fuck was going on. But everybody's controlled in a sense, right? Because I don't know. It's kind of you look at how it was when Meg was at the DNC in Chicago, and then compare that to how Beyonce was. Two totally different. You know what I mean? Energies right there, right? You can say maybe the age thing, but I think it's like the willingness to be in there and just like I'm just doing this shit so I don't get fined. That's what I was getting from it.
That's exactly what I thought.
Well, back to Beyonce and the whole being pulled out with another, yeah, with Kelly in a chopper suit. Let's look at that through through the eyes of operant conditioning. So she was positively reinforcing. There was a positive reinforcement of what, same sex relationship,
Yes.
and negative. Why was there some around her neck?
No, I said I could feel it felt like there was a leash on her neck yanking her up to the
Oh,
podium.
Yeah, because she didn't want to be there.
It was
wow.
cringing.
These,
It was very cringe. In fact, a lot of people endorsing Kamala look cringe.
Saw what
And
happened to
it's
yeah,
Usher. He said
and
he not really a fan of politics. They drug his ass right out there on that stage. He's
right
like, so he said that on.
yeah,
more
buddy.
cringe.
He
Why
walked that
such a
shit back
switch?
quick.
Why such a swift turnaround for Usher? What did they have on him? Or some
Right.
people
You
are
know
saying,
them Diddy parties.
oh, Diddy parties. Hi, Robbie.
Hey, Robbie,
Hey,
talk to us, Robbie Blue.
Come off your mute. Come off your
Can you
mute.
can you hear me?
I
Yeah,
hear
I
you,
hear you.
bro.
Okay, yeah, man. I was having some issues with my phone when I was listening to you guys speak. About people's inability to be able to like touch on certain issues, or people can just literally yank their chain. uh that expression Cinderella story, I think that's literally what it is the people who control the purse strings are the ones who wave that magic wand and turn their pumpkin into a carriage. And the minute you don't play ball, then everything the clock strikes midnight, so they know they can always go backwards. That's the difference between being rich and wealthy.
this
But if you got like $100 million, like some, I don't know.
I
But it
know that
may not be liquid, you feel me?
right.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Like Kanye's situation. It's racism. This is the system of white supremacy just acting out. Did you land your plane, Robin?
Yes, sir.
All right, Kanye, talk to us.
You know, back in the day, I don't know how true this is, but they said if a black person amassed a certain amount of wealth, they would have to reclassify them as white and give them a European babysitter. Not sure how true that is, but starting to think that's more and more the case these days. More and more plausible. Um, and not to be funny, but when Kanye West went on his rant about going on DEF CON 3 or whatever, he provided very, very detailed text messages he was getting from people who were literally threatening to put him back in an asylum, tell him it's happy time and all this other shit. So it's like he definitely had a handler. So it was like, huh. And the more you think about it, the more you start to say, well, who else got a handler, right? Because um, I don't know. I think Oprah has a handler too. But I mean, it's just speculation on my part. I mean, you just kind of see it and you think, okay, maybe they still doing that shit.
Well, what's very strange about Kanye, if you look at his handler was former Canadian Special Forces um, in the psychological warfare division. Like, what? Really? Really? Go ahead, Robin. Go ahead, Rob Blue.
Just give me 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, somebody fact checked that, but I think Dick Gregory or somebody was saying that the guy, I looked him up. I saw he was special forces, former special forces, but the Kanye is like, I don't know what his a formal title is, but the guy, like the one that was threatening to put him back on medication, I'm like, y'all really put like a military asset to watch this dude? Go ahead, Robbie.
Now you just got me thinking, just maybe to give some people a little bit of nuance. So you have to understand, like, the threat of council culture, what that basically means. Like, take the music business, for instance. The record companies are basically banks. So they always make sure they never recoup their investment, so that you're always in the hole. So to maintain your lifestyle, you're basically living off shows and live performances and appearances. But how counseling can hurt you is if you lose endorsements or you get blackballed. That means because you got even actors who get royalties. Like, when we stream, like apps like Stars, HBO, all that, people get checks quarterly. You know what I mean?
Right.
Some people get money just from a song being played in the background of power or something. So I think what happens is it's just like, do you really want to go backwards? That's what somebody has to ask themselves, because they know that there's gatekeepers and there's people who do favors, right, to get certain things placed. So you've amassed this lifestyle and what you're used to, and just at a moment's notice, they can just start starving you out. Like, what if they stop booking you for shows? I mean, look at Jonathan Majors. That's a good example. He didn't necessarily lose his wealth, but he has to be very smart with how he makes investments until other doors open, because it's like once they blackball you, they can just start taking away and sullying your reputation to the point where anything that you did do prior to whatever, scandal or whatever they had, it's like they sully you. So it almost, again, it makes sure that you can't make money off that other stuff. They were having a hard time with the Cosby Show. Remember, initially before Bill Cosby got vindicated, they were saying, we're not going to put it in syndication. We're not going to play it as much. That's about killing his royalties. And I land my plane.
Wow, Robbie, you just made me think of that our celebrities or celebrities, I don't know if they belong to us, are operantly conditioned. They receive positive reinforcement to do whatever the fuck these people tell them to do. And when they try to be independent, they receive negative reinforcement, the quote unquote shock. It seemed like Usher got a shock from saying that he was politically neutral. Somebody shocked the shit out of his ass.
Now I had to remind his ass he's on them tapes. That was that's what it was.
That, yep, that's a shock.
You know what I find interesting about the whole situation, and I'm probably gonna dip out of this. I think it's real strange, right? That they'll know these conditions are created. They'll have entire think tanks about it for decades, and then gaslight us into thinking it's just a cultural problem, right? With completely ignoring the fact they introduced it into the culture. J. Edgar Hoover and his people got together and was like, yeah, we can't give rise to a new black messiah, right? Demonized, murdered, and sowed all type of discord amongst the Black Panther Party. Destroyed the black family systematically. And then 20 years later, they look at us and say, these people are lawless, right? And it's like, we're going to completely ignore everything they did. And now, like you were saying in Tennessee, they don't even want you teaching the shit. Like, they don't even want you teaching the situation. So it's like, so how do we atone for that? Because it ain't just happen, but I don't know. It's just,
No, it's power in, like Wani said. Once you know, that's the antidote, is knowing it. And what I figured out, I'm coming to you, Robbie, is this top attack, this attack from those this Nazi Germany top shelf. Um, uh, I'm trying to be codified with what group I'm talking about, but y'all know the group of people, the elites that run stuff. It's psychological. So if you know what's going on from a psychological standpoint, you can almost shut it down. Go ahead, Robin.
You're making me think, like, you kind of made me, something just kind of clicked in my brain. Because remember the other day we were talking about, how rogue nations and countries, they can achieve like political freedom, but then they don't have economic freedom, because the IMF or some of the European powers, they can say, okay, fine, we'll let you build up a government, but we'll put so many sanctions and things on you that will force you to play ball, and we can even corrupt your government. Well, that's no different than an influencer or a celebrity or a politician. They have political influence, but that the economic purse strings, right, are subject to sanctions. And I think that's like I said, that's where council culture comes in. That's where blackballing comes in. And also that's where just somebody can really do social engineering and shape narratives. And we see that with Elon Musk. I mean, who's really putting him in check? He can pick and choose who gets censored, who doesn't, and what direction he wants to influence, keyword, people to think for the next 20 years.
He has an outrageous amount of power. The jury hadn't come out
He'll
on
go
Elon yet.
down and he'll go down.
I bet you can guess what for, but I'm not gonna say it on here.
We can't say stuff. We'll get kicked off.
Yep. So earlier, I was wrong. I was talking about Sirhan, and I said the alpha state in the jumbotron. I found it while Robbie was talking. It's called the theta
Theta
state.
state. That's the main one that is the most pliable. That's the one you want to be into when you're meditating and stuff.
Oh, that's it. Same thing. Wow. So you can in theta state, if you're programmed, you can be in a state where you think you're dreaming, but you're doing something. So was Sirhan in theta state? Wani, how does one get into theta state?
Um, I have to teach you.
I'm
I'm a
we,
meditation
we
teacher.
we're gonna have to set aside a time because I need to fix my head. I need
We
to
have
start
to do a
meditating.
room.
I'm down.
7th.
Yes, thank you. We were talking about, B.F. Skinner and his operant conditioning.
Uh-huh.
Oh, one person I want to tell you all about is Edward Bernays.
I don't know
He
this one.
I think he was Freud's nephew. Sigmund Freud.
Right.
Now, I personally think that Sigmund Freud, his stuff was bullshit. I never had an Oedipus complex. That is disgusting. But his nephew Edward Bernays, he is the guy who started modern advertising. He worked for the advertising companies, and about he was the guy who had the successful. You name some uh successful advertising campaign, in the 1920s, probably then on. He's the guy who was behind it. With that, I yield the mic.
Yeah, Sigmund Freud. Ladies, and I'm glad you brought up Freud.
Yes.
Um, Freud admitted that basically black people and white people don't have the same psychology, which is overlooked in school, and to my understanding, in practice, overlooked by psychologists. It's just like I mean, I can't. I have a hard time finding psychologists. I don't trust them because um, they just Freud.
It's mostly pseudoscience.
It's a whole bunch of bullshit. But well, I don't know if I want to say it's bullshit. It just a lot of it don't apply to us. Basically, Freud identified that, and as I was talking, I was like looking for a book. I was like, I need to find the Iceman Inheritance. But Freud said that Europeans have, and forgive me if I butcher this, but Europeans operate off of two basic instincts: Thanatos and Eros and Thanatos. So basically, and it's very fascinating if you look at it. So basically, um, that life on the what do you call it, one of the step
Yes. Caspian
that
steppe in the Caucasus.
yeah, that brutal like life of just like kill or be killed created a need to procreate because so many people getting murdered. You need to like, and then there's a thing about numbers and uh what did Dr. Welsing say? Genetic annihilation. That's there subconsciously, but there's a need for eros, a need to procreate. I'm being nice. I could say a R word, but there's that need. And also there's Thanatos, it's the death instinct. So Freud said Europeans are dominated by the life instinct and the death instinct. Sex and murder, sex and murder, sex and murder. And blacks, we don't fit into that paradigm. So all that Oedipus concept, in love with your mama stuff, that
Yeah.
don't even apply. It don't apply to us.
No.
Dr. Amos Dr. Amos Wilson really laid that shit out. He said it's a smoke screen. Wilson basically said, I'm paraphrasing him, that it was absolute bullshit. He said that's a smoke screen to take the onus off the system. What do you mean? This system creates poverty. This system is why um, um, we have such a low marriage rate. And this it's the system. It's not us. But when you go to see about yourself because you feel like you're gonna have a nervous breakdown, what is a doctor trained to ask you about? Did you get along with your mother? So what does that do? That conveniently gives an excuse to the system. It's like it's not the system, it's not the filthy system that you grew up in, it's your mom. So it's kind of a scapegoat, man, which is why I get so frustrated with psychologists. But
He actually got caught writing some disparaging letters about his patients. He said something to the effect of he just wanted money and his therapy gives them the right to indulge their, sick thoughts or whatever. But my question about the whole psychology or psychiatry, what branch of science is able to operate with respect and yet they've cured nothing? They've never
that's what the
cured
fuck I'm
anything.
saying.
They
Thank
they have
you.
no cures for anything. Any other branch of science, you have to prove that what you're doing works. Now, I'm not saying that talk therapy isn't good. Talking to someone when you feel bad is wonderful. You go call your aunt or a friend or something. But these, everything else, no, it doesn't work. And all of his theories about people liking their mother, maybe some do, maybe some don't. I don't know anyone who's into that, but it doesn't involve everybody. So I mean, it, a lot of things that he said are just wrong, and these guys think they're smarter than everyone. Remember, they create
Right.
reality. If they say a gorilla doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. And the um, I remember recently that people in India said, no, our history goes back tens of thousands of years. But they didn't want to hear that because they want to say that it's only 5,000 years a maximum. And so they found a sunken city that was uh, dated to what they said it was, Dwarka, I forget the date. But they found a sunken city off of India, which is exactly what they said it was, where it was, and the age it was. But reality does not exist until a German person tells us that this is the way things are. These animals exist. And if you'll pay attention, most of the people that are saying that animals exist and verifying the lesser people like in Asia and in Africa, those people are always German or English, rarely other groups. Rarely
When
other
in the
groups.
English, and the English are who? The Germans.
Right. Remember, we're under a German occupation. That's another room.
And well, let me add on to that before we get to you, Savannah. Um, and to add insult to injury, Ronnie, the psychology that they're top, best, and brightest. I want to say that Freud was a student of Carl Jung. Their best and brightest psychiatrist, Carl Jung, stole his knowledge from Egyptian texts and from the Indian Vedas. So this is knowledge. This knowledge of psychology, is stolen knowledge that they honestly, according to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, did not have the mental capacity to fucking understand. What are you talking about? I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about it. According to Dr. Welsing, give me one moment while I find this. Hold on. Give me 1 minute because this is important. Now, any other time, I might have to paraphrase it. Dr. Welsing said basically that the lack of the I almost know it by heart. The lack of the neuropeptide melanin um, separates the European from a full spectrum of understanding in the universe. So the European or person with albinism has a harder time, or maybe even an impossible time, understanding the totality of like. There it is. Dr. Wilson says, "Quote the absence of the neuropeptide melanin, the absence of this black pigment in the skin and other aspects of the nervous system critically impairs the depth sensitivity of the nervous system and the ability to tune in to the total spectrum of energy frequencies in the universe. This deficiency of sensory awareness sets the stage for absence of harmony, uh, the chaos and destruction, which is evil. Thus, the injustice of evil of white supremacy Not only has its foundation in the numerical minority status of the global white population and its genetic recessive status in the terms of melanin pigment production, but the very absence of melanin in the nervous system is in significant degrees is an additional contributing factor in the problem of white supremacist injustice. She says white supremacy is the greatest known evil on earth. She basically is saying that the evil that we see coming from white supremacy is basically a lack of understanding because they're not some of them are not tapped into the full understanding of the universe. Why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing it up because Carl Jung stole the fucking knowledge he got from people who had a greater understanding than him. So he took the little, knowledge without wisdom is dangerous as a motherfucker. Knowledge with wisdom can take the atom, the uranium 235 atom, and create endless power to power a city or a state, right? Knowledge without wisdom can take uranium 235 and blow up a goddamn city. So that's kind of what Europeans are using. They're using knowledge without a full spectrum
Hmm.
of understanding.
Yep, and they've been digging in those Vedas and getting everything wrong, just like they dug into the Abrahamic religions and got them all wrong.
Wani, I love you. She said digging in them Vedas. I love it. Digging in them Vedas. Go ahead, Savannah.
Hey y'all, thank you for hosting the space, Professor Nikki and Wani. I got in yesterday and listened to the playback, and I joined in late. But I had my cousin listening in, and we were having our own sidebar, and I wanted to speak on something that a gentleman was talked about, because I think the space talked on think tanks, um, and how they are used to promote the degeneracy within our community. And something that I had peeped that a professor of mine had talked about in undergrad was a study that Barack Obama had asked one of his think tanks to look into. It was basically the racial wealth gap, and he had mentioned how the year 54, how they basically would have, they plan on ushering in and have solidified their new class of people. And so with this report that Obama had come up with, studying the racial wealth gap, obviously many people know that they figured that by that year black people will accumulate 0% of wealth, right? And so given what we all know now, everything that's decided in America is a policy decision. Homelessness, a policy decision. Immigration, the issues with immigration, policy decisions. And so with that being said, it's like, did you have them make this report to see if you guys were on target with your goals, or did you have this report conducted to see if you all can solve it? And given everything that's happened, and given his tenure and after his tenure and everything that the Democrats are promoting, they want us to become, it's like they want us to become third class citizens. They don't want to do the radical thing, which would be reparations in order to solve the racial wealth gap. That would be the only way to solve the racial wealth gap, to eliminate that being a possibility, right? And so that was just one of the things that I wanted to add on to. It's just like, why did you have this think tank come up with this, knowing that this is an issue, it's around the corner, and it takes about 20 years for policies to even take place, meaning we would have to take and do everything we need to do now, right? And so if we keep waiting, 10, 15 years, then we will become that third class citizen group that they're trying to create. And if we're getting treated like we are now as second class, imagine how we'll be treated as third class. So,
Oh wow. Yeah.
We can't be third and fourth and fifth class citizens. That's just wishful thinking. There's no way that that can happen. The people coming across the border don't even speak English or Spanish. How are they going to be ranked higher than us and they can't even talk? Literally, they're not.
right, and that's
And
and that's what I was trying to.
we're highly educated,
Yeah.
and like I said, they want that to happen, and we are under a lot of pressure all the time.
Hmm.
But we're not ever going to be fifth class and fourth class citizens. They want that. Let's not confuse them wanting that with us actually being that, because
Right,
we're
and
not
that's why,
that.
and I brought that up because of the simple fact. having this conversation with my cousin. It's like, because we we won't allow it to happen, right? Thinking of like Tupac Thug Life, right? The hate you give little infants, fuck everybody. Eventually, when it's happening now, everybody's gonna wake up like the coffee's not good, something like just not adding up. And I think that's what's happening. Like, a lot of people are upset with people choosing to vote the red party, because it's like a, hey, f you, Democrats. People are upset with how people want to have these conversations, right? People say these conversations are unproductive. We're having the same conversations every day. I think it's very helpful, because it kind of gives people who could potentially be one day in positions of power to then stop a lot of these negative and misconceptions about what the party is and what the movement's all about, right? And the misnomers and the misconceptions when it comes to reparations, right? And what's going on in Ohio may not be happening in one state, and I think that's one of the biggest things that it's been a big insight for me, because states like California, Chicago, like conversations like that are like we're not having a conversation in Ohio. Like, I don't know who the movers and the shakers are. Quite frankly, I think a lot of them are boule, so they're not going to want to have these conversations. But it's just nice to see and have these conversations with people who are also in the room with people having these conversations. And it's important that we have these conversations, and they're not necessary, and they're not productive. So I just wanted to say that, and
Thank you.
yeah.
Who was saying they were unproductive? One of our enemies?
I mean, you guys, one of the things that I'm also noticing is that a lot of people in our community are hurt, right? And when they see people who are probably more intelligent than them talking and maybe got a little bit more knowledge, they get intimidated, right? And so instead of adding fuel to the fire, because we all know that that's off code, I think it's just, I guess, what's to say, kill it with kindness, because we're not nice, right? We broke down the etymology of nice. Um, but it's just also just one of those things where, people are listening, right? We saw them change the way that they were talking about reparations right in front of us, live action, for the ones that's been listening.
Oh yeah, the mainstream. I'm almost convinced that CNN is listening to my channel.
Oh,
Like, like I heard some talking point. I've been witnessing the head members of the DNC crash. Y'all seen them crashing out lately on
Love
TV?
it.
What'd you say, Wani?
Love it.
Just straight crashing out. Like Michelle Obama was up there. Like I was like, wow, I didn't even know she could
What
talk
did
like
she
that.
do?
I saw something
She
today where
was
she was just
trending.
like, she was like basically shaming, just shaming. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but it was like just a general shame on you for not voting for Kamala. It doesn't even make sense, y'all. And then let me tell you the crazy part. This weekend there was a one of my guilty pleasures is Joe Rogan. And I watched this weekend. I watched a about 3 hour interview with Joe Rogan and Donald Trump, and I was like, "Oh wow!" Like it was such a personable, heartfelt, genuine interview wherein Donald Trump didn't really spend a lot of time dissing, anybody. He was just talking about him and policy, and I was like, why can't they do that? you know, can you talk about policy and tell us how you used to play softball or some shit? So it's like these people went to Harvard Law talking about. They'll say one sentence of intelligence, and the rest of the paragraph is Trump. I can't believe you're going to vote for him. He's bad. He's bad. Trump bad. Trump bad. Like what's going on? I'm like confused.
like, I'm not gonna lie, like, being in the PWI, being in the midst of it all, being so brainwashed, I swear to you, I thought I was getting a letter in the mail letting me know where I needed to report to. Like, you couldn't convince me that that wasn't going to be the case, right? And I think that's what they're banking on, is that a lot of us are still in like Stockholm syndrome with them.
Yeah.
And so, and then they're seeing that
That.
these spaces, yeah, people don't interact with them, but people are listening. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm almost yeah. That's you. She hit. She
we
said the
we get more
magic
views
word.
than they do. We stop.
She. Savannah said the magic word, Stockholm syndrome, and I think Tariq said this the other night. They're just so surprised that we're like not acting out of our Stockholm syndrome. I don't know why. How did we break that spell? But I feel like the syndrome spell is broken.
Well, did you see that video? It went viral several times where it's in a reenactment in a way of like what the conversation was when they saw that it was bound to be that once we started reading, once we started doing for ourselves, that eventually there were going to be Negroes who were going to be like, "Hey, wait, hold on." So that they made the conscious decision to try to drive and like separate us from the other Negroes, right? And so they then
Right.
gave us titles, then they gave us accolades, and then the funny comment, the comedian, one of the Wayne's brothers stated, they put you up front, like, "Hey, now that you got all this money, is America racist?" Right? And so we saw that tap dancing occur with both, it happens on both the left and the right, right? And now
Mm.
it's like, well, dang, we can't get you on the left or the right. What are you Negroes? Right? We were the ones that we were the people that we were supposed to be magical Negroes, right? And now it's not working. And I think what's happening, the reason why the veil is lifted is because if you call yourself so quote unquote smart, so intelligent, and you say, what's the definition of insanity? And you live it and you're trying to be truthful, you're trying to be honest, then you gotta wake up. You gotta wake up because shit not adding up. And then, just, yeah.
We're in a more intelligent. Thank you for that point, Savannah. We're in a more intelligent realm of existence now, on a metaphysical level. Some say we're in the age of Aquarius. I believe in that, but we don't even have to get that deep. We're in a very technological age where Gen Z and millennials are basically. I'm an early millennial, and I'm not going to say I was grew up on computers, but the majority of my life was on computers, right? So we're technologically and savvy, and so given that fact, it's only but logical to assume that you need to meet us on that level, at least discuss ideas on some level if you want, our vote. And I feel like, they refuse to, or maybe they're just not aware that we're, I don't know, maybe it's that arrogance Wani was talking about, like, no, black people are this. No, they're this. You just feed them and dance and twerk and send Luke out and send Plies out. You
I
know,
mean, they did a study before they gave out the 1,200. They determined that during after they conducted their study, that $1,200 was a lot to us, right?
wow.
So that right there, like, but no one, was listening. But right there, like $1,200, really? Um, and so that it's just like they don't really care to solve the issue of poverty and to serve, or so it's like we have to have these conversations. We have to be annoying. Like imagine, if Harriet Tubman heard everybody say to her, "Girl, just get along." Master, we got clothes. We get grits on Sundays. We get eggs on Tuesday. Like, come on now, girl, why would you mess that up? You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, thank you for articulating it. That's really what I was trying to say earlier. That was a baby boomer argument. That's what I heard from, because my parents are boomers. That's what I heard was, just, go ahead, get you a job. And I did that shit. I did everything. Go to school, get you a good job, good, you know, get good credit, did all that shit and still got fucked over. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, I want to identify something Savannah said. According to me, in my academic publication, my book, according to me, Stockholm syndrome is a psychological response wherein a captive begins to identify closely with his captors or captors. Um, as well as their agenda and demands. So Savannah used that term earlier. I wanted to make sure y'all knew, everybody knew what Stockholm syndrome was, because it was very correctly used. In my book, I wrote a book on American history, and I identified that Amanute, who was named Pocahontas, totally had Stockholm syndrome. Amanute is a great example, and I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all some pictures out of my book to show you how Stockholm syndrome, how this worked. And like one of my friends used to say, what that means. Look at this. I want to show you a before and after picture of Miss Amanute, um, Pocahontas. Pocahontas meant bad little girl because listen to her daddy. Um, he said, leave them white people alone. And she was like, no, 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 I know what I'm doing. End up being kidnapped.
Wait, did he say leave him alone? I forget the story.
I
Yeah,
got it in
he
my
said
book.
we were always fearful of the white man, and then
No,
they
I
were nasty.
mean,
They brought diseases,
no, I
and
mean
she
Pocahontas's daddy.
Pocahontas. This is what Pocahontas's daddy said. Pocahontas's daddy said, "quote I've seen generations of my people die. I know the difference between peace and war better than any man in my country. I am now grown old, and I must die. My authority must descend to my brothers, Ochapan and I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to say that. And Kato. Then to my two sisters, and then to my daughters. I wish them to know as much as I do, and for your love to them may be like mine to you. Why will you take by force what you may have? Why will you take by force what you will take by? Oh Lord, why will you take by force what you may have quietly by love? Why will you destroy us who supply you with food? What can you get by war? We can hide our provisions and run to the woods. Then you will starve for wrongdoing of your friends. Why are you jealous of us? He talking to the Europeans. We are unarmed and willing to give you what you ask. If you come in a friendly manner and not so simple as to not to know that it's much better to eat good meat, sleep comfortably, live quietly with my wives and children, laugh and be merry with the English, trade for their copper and hatchets than to run away from them and lie cold in the woods, feed on acorns, roots, and such trash, and to be so hunted that I can neither eat nor sleep. In these wars, my men must sit up watching, and if a twig break, they all cry out, "Here comes Captain Smith!"
Okay.
So I must go.
Well, I just wanted to know what he said about his daughter.
Oh Lord, he told her, and I'm paraphrasing. He told her to leave them alone because
When did he say that
they
though? He said you could
according
have what you could have had this for free. Didn't he say you could have had love, but you're choosing to take something?
yeah he was
See,
taught
you know
that
why I
let
asked this
go
question?
for it.
Because they don't have a notion of virginity, or and they don't care if their girls have sex with settlers, and that doesn't take away from their character and their opinion. So usually when these settlers would come along, they could have sex with them. That didn't take away from them marrying one of the males in their group or make anyone look down on them at all. They encouraged you to be um explore your options, so to speak.
And I believe that because if you look at the pictures of her, she was well. You can look at the picture and see how she was dressed, but maybe I'm not giving proper context. Um, and I'll find a direct quote, but basically what I read is at some point his name was Chief Powhatan, if I'm saying it right. At some point, he told the colonists. He told the his men. I forget the name, but maybe the Powhatans or whatever. He told them to leave the colonists alone
Mm-hmm.
because they were strange.
Yeah.
So he did give Pocahontas an order to leave, and it wasn't like don't have sex with him. It was leave him alone because rumor got out that she was going to help them learn how to eat and shit. And he told because in the book he calls her Pocahontas, which means bad little girl. It's a phrase, Pocahontas. Her name was Amanute, but it wasn't a sexual thing. I don't think that was viewed as a bad thing in his culture. The bad thing was he didn't know who these people were because
Right. I'm
they tried to
trying
help him initially.
right. I'm trying to see when it transitioned from we can hang out with these people and you can mix and mingle to stay away from them.
I got a really good book that talks about that. It's gonna have to take a
yeah,
little time for me to look through it.
I read a book on it, and then I know people like who descend from like her, and like the way they explained it was that, and like they lost. There was a war before all of this happened, before she left to Europe and all of that, but The thing about it is that, like you said, she thought that she could handle John, and she thought that she was in control of the situation. She didn't know that she was being used, and her father did, and that's all he was trying to do was heap warning to her. But going like you said, she was hard headed. She thought she knew it all, this, that, and the third, and she ended up getting quote unquote captured and thinking that, oh, I'm just going to go visit, go on this little holiday with John and come back, and like that wasn't the case. And she was like 14 years old, and she basically just got raped and became his wife, and
But
yeah.
but I hear what you're. I hear. I think I understand what you're asking, Wanda. You're saying like, what specific point did it turn, and the chief said, "Hey, we need to stop messing with them."
He never they never messed with them. That was the thing. Like you said, she was going out and teaching them how to like survive and grow and this, that, and the third, because they didn't know. They didn't come here on good pretenses of we want to build and grow with them. Like that's why they celebrate Thanksgiving, right? They came here to, the goal was to conquer at the end of the day. So knowing that and wanting to protect and fend, we tried everything to keep them out of the mix, right? But because she thought that she was in control and she didn't know she was being used as a double agent, they came in and played us. So we never wanted that relationship. They never wanted that relationship.
No, I agree with you. I'm about to look through a book for Wani. Wani, what it specifically is you want to know?
What happened?
They
Can
were
y'all hear?
they were dying off and starving.
Say that
Like
again.
they were
Oh, no,
nasty
no.
people.
You. No, I agree with that. Wani, you asked something me specifically. So you said when was what? Because I'm gonna look through a book to find
That's
your answer.
okay. I was just, wondering because usually those types of girls that the settlers ran into, they were not, their families did not say, don't go messing with them. So I was just wondering, like, what did he do?
Oh, well, I can paraphrase it. He told the people of Waracomo to leave them alone. And when he told them that, I don't know, because initially I think they were communicating initially. Something turned where they were like, "Oh, we need to leave them
Like
alone."
they were cutting
And I,
down trees. Like they were cutting down trees. They were just disrespecting the land. Like they were just nasty. They were ruthless. They were like messing with the kids. They was coming into town like doing the most. Like they thought because they were quote unquote, they thought that they could do whatever. They were discarding our lands. They weren't respecting none of the traditions, none of that. Just, I mean, it was just basically visitors coming in with no type of home training. That's what it was. And we
Have you
weren't, and they weren't like every other tribe where it was, they were interested in the things that they had, the gold and the jewelries and things that they couldn't get us like that. They had to come in conniving and yeah, double agent. Sorry. So,
well,
uh,
Camilla Townsend wrote a book called Pocahontas, and it's real thorough. And I have the book, but Camilla said, and I'm paraphrasing her. She said something like, um, I can't remember what turn, Wani. Some turn where they were like, "Nah, leave them alone. Don't stop talking." Because he gave an order to his men to stop helping, and kind of like a little skirmish broke out. But back to the point, according to Camilla Townsend, Pocahontas was told at that point to stop going around them, and she went around them anyway, and they kidnapped her ass for a year, and that's how she ended up marrying Captain whatever his name was, Captain Smith or whatever.
yeah, John Smith.
But I think initially the family was cool with her going. Like Wani said, they didn't have a problem. It wasn't like get your hands off my daughter.
No,
no,
It
don't
wasn't
do
nothing
they
like
that.
that.
wanted to bring in their religion. They wanted us to convert, right? See,
To what?
the
Rape
tribe.
victims?
Well, I mean, they're quote unquote white Jesus. The problem was the tribes that got along the best were the ones that, like you said, yeah, you can marry my daughter. You can learn our customs. You can just. There were tribes like that, like the Iroquois. Like there were tribes like that who definitely were like, yeah, there was no issues. Like, and but but the Patawan, they weren't that wasn't them. Like they were like the Seminole. They were always fearful of the white man.
Well,
Um,
now you see that they're like 95% white, so that worked out well for them.
well,
Have you noticed that the Vikings uh, were living here on this land and everybody didn't get all those diseases? Have you noticed that? Everyone did not get it. What is the deal? Are English super spreaders? I mean, English
Mm.
and Spanish super spreaders? What's the problem?
if we're older than them, which we believe, then we would have already known all the cures and whatnot to eradicate the things that they were suffering from.
Well, the and
Oh,
this may be common sense. So shut me down if you like, duh. But I just wanted to add, yes, they're super spreaders. They would give. I got a book called Pox Americana that talks about that shit. They would give gifts. They were full. The Europeans, the Spaniards, they were fully aware. They knew about immunities, and they knew about this shit, and they would give presents to the leadership of the Native Americans, like little pretty bows and shit that had like a blanket in it that somebody had coughed on.
no, I
Smallpox. They was giving
understand.
blankets with smallpox in it, talking about some here.
Right.
This
Yep.
is Egyptian cotton that we got and traded for.
Now, okay, I understand the smallpox blankets, but I'm talking about when they first got here, they got off the ship sick and they killed 90% of the population.
That's a
But
fact.
that didn't happen to the people exposed to the Vikings.
The
They
Vikings were
had
Well,
clean.
are,
The
settlements.
Vikings were clean. The
They
Vi-
had settlements here, that's proven. They
yeah.
traded,
I don't know
that's
much
The
about the
proven.
Vikings
Yeah,
were
Vikings.
the Vikings actually got a bad PR front. The Vikings were
because the
actually
English people don't like them and they were fighting them the whole time and pretending like they didn't exist or find this land. But
they were fighting against slavery. That's why they didn't. That's why they don't like them.
The
And
Vikings
they were along with
had
the pirates.
settlements. They also had, first off, they had settlements here for a long time. They traded with Native Americans. They lived on the same. I know this because my grandfather is from one of the settlements in Sussex County, Delaware. It was New Sweden. So they didn't have any problems, right? They didn't try to kill them. They didn't try to cheat them too bad. There was an issue with them saying they didn't give enough trapped furs, and they were like, "Dude, go back to Sweden. We don't care. We're not giving you stuff we can't catch." Anyway, past that, they didn't really have any issues, and they certainly didn't all die from disease. So I'm wondering what was wrong with these guys.
No, the Vikings were clean. Like you said, they traded with us, and that's where that whole thing of like people. That's what I love reading, like biographies and whatnot, and people have finding like family heirlooms and whatnot because um, when you think about it, for us and why we have a closeness to furs, like I don't know about y'all, but like people in my family, like everybody, like if you didn't have a mink coat, like you were nothing. Like we ran the mink in the fur trade and whatnot, and they were one of our biggest partners. And like you said, we weren't getting sick from them because they were actually clean people. Like they were very very clean. But they
That's
get a
Well, I don't know.
but they get a bad rep because along with the pirates, they helped against
that
the
that
Atlantic
is
slave trade.
because of the English. The English give everybody bad propaganda. They're another very
Mm, yep.
soft victim of propaganda. Soft victim.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know much about Vikings, but what I will say is Graham Hancock snuck into the Great Pyramid of Giza and saw it's a fucking docked boat. There's a docked Egyptian boat in the back of that pyramid that's off limits that you're not supposed to see. And Graham took a picture of it and put it in Fingerprints of the Gods. And that Egyptian boat looked just exactly identical to those
Oh
Viking
my
boats.
God!
So,
Did it have a
would you
dragon
want to
head?
see? Do you want to
I
see
mean,
it?
Yes.
we got coins.
Hold on, I'm gonna go get it. Hold on.
My cousin said that we got a coin, and it looked like a Viking coin that's been passed down in our family and whatnot. And so like, and thinking about like how popular furs were like people could have a like my aunt has a fur that is very very old, and I'm hoping I get it, since I'm like I can fit it. I'm probably like one of the only ones that try to stay in shape. um, but it's one of those things where it's like, can people, if just people just talk about it. Like you might find a real old little thing, and you might not even know that this was something that was traded for in your family, um, and whatnot. Just like looking up different symbols and their meanings.
Just thought it was interesting. They didn't have that same takeover spirit in terms of this is our land, this is our, we own the skies, you can't shoot, you can't fish, you got to pay us a tax. This is my land, this is my house, you're tax, tax, tax. Didn't you just say you just ran from being taxed? And now you're over
Mm-mm.
here charging us to fish in waters you don't own. You don't own water, but they do now.
And they talked about how they fought for religious they fought from religious persecution, and they're pushing their religion on us and forcing us to quote unquote convert.
Shoving it down people's
So,
throats.
Hmm.
so that picture in a jumbotron is a picture of a boat that y'all never heard of. That this is why I've lost faith in academic canon. This boat has always been in the back of the fucking Great Pyramid of Giza in an off limits area, and it's not been shared according to Graham. And I believe this wholeheartedly because the narrative was black people didn't know how to
Right. But we sailed down the
yeah,
Nile. Okay, fine. And
dumbasses.
use the
Shit.
Niger River and all that. Okay, fine.
And if this is the best boat, because we also know that they were also known to be the best craftsmen when it came to boats, then this is also should be a teller that they did not send over millions of people. How would you get people on this come on now, look at this ship.
And now this
You
is
mean to tell me that these
interesting.
were these were the ships that they used to get
No,
millions of
those
people
weren't.
over here?
No, those weren't the
Come on
ships.
now.
I have a picture of the ships. But anyway, this that's interesting. That's not the boat that I saw in Egypt. It was way, way bigger,
But that
and
boat
it
is a
wasn't
different
that
time spirit.
style.
I'm sorry, Miss Wani, I don't mean to cut you off, but the boat that you're talking about came on later in time, right?
Yeah, I have no, I the boat I saw when I was over there, I have no idea what year it was at all. But the slave ships were very, very large, and they converted them into cargo ships. I have a couple of pictures of
Oh,
people on the ships. So yeah, they did use ships.
But those ships came around 1800s. This ship is the Vikings, right? And so what I'm saying is that when they say that how long the slave trade was and whatnot, and who played a part and who didn't, like just looking at just like pictures like that right there,
No,
1600s.
that's not a slave ship. That's just a
No,
ship. That's
yeah,
just a ship. They wouldn't put lots of people on it. They would flip over. Um, this is interesting, Professor. This is a completely different style than the one
mm-hmm.
that they show at the
And that
museum.
and it because you can't see that one. That's hidden. Graham, I fucking love Graham for this. But Europeans can do stuff we can't do. Graham went to the Great Pyramid of Giza in '92 or some shit, and snuck in there at night and paid off a guard, like to sneak to go to unlimited zones, which you really can't do now. But he had a camera, didn't tell anybody, and took a picture of that shit. It's not supposed to exist, Wani. Foundational Black Americans, if that this is why academic historical canon is corrupt. They don't want this to get out because that would prove that the black man and woman created um
We
um
already we
mar-
already
what-
know we created. It didn't work. We already know that we were the first people on the planet. So they just came along very, very recently.
why do we listen to
I
them
know
with
because
anything?
they're trying to create reality, and we're very naive collectively, and we don't realize it. These people do not care what other countries say. If other countries say no, we have literal flying saucers over our heads, and we're going to take reports. They refuse to acknowledge it. It's like, wait, this is a major country with a president, and they're
Mhm.
trying to tell you something that's going on, and you're saying no, we don't want that. But when I thought about it, I said, well, people did lose their minds when they had that War of the World radio show, and people thought actual aliens were invading. Remember that with
Mhm.
Orson Welles? People
Yep.
lost their minds, so maybe that's why they're not going to tell anyone if something strange flies overhead.
That's wild. Rent free. You had your hand up a while back. We got caught in a discussion. You still want to talk?
Yeah, I was going to be real quick. Shout out to everybody in the room. I appreciate the host. Just trying to find out if you do you have an archive of these? Because this is quickly this is quickly becoming must listen to space, and I'd like to share it with people.
Oh, the spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, the space.
Nikki. You got to find Nikki's channel. Nikki, could you tell them how to find your channel? I think Nikki's channel is called Nikki the God on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one word.
I put it up.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Like and subscribe.
Yo, real quick, shout out to Wani. Yes, that was a very, very interesting time. The world of worlds. People were killing themselves. It was mass hysteria, and they were doing it like, oh, we interrupt this to bring you this, and they were talking about when I was taking radio TV. That was like, it's one of the most dangerous parts about media propaganda. It's so powerful because people trust you, and you have a right to, you have a obligation to always put out the truth, and then that was a gross misuse of it. But yeah, no, that
Hmm.
was a very dangerous time. And also, I want to add that, yeah, obviously, black people knew how to sail ships and shit like that. It's just they don't want you to understand how far away and how vast the elaborate these quarries were and how they was moving them and stuff like that. They want to pretend like they don't know. Truth is, they can't replicate it, but we can.
They can say what they want, but the Aboriginals got from Africa all the way to Australia, and you can look at a map and see. So how did they do that in those little broken down canoes? Somebody tell me something. Um, and also, the Australians have a lot of proof that Egyptians sailed there. So again, I don't know about sailing, but people did get to these places. We have evidence that people with the Austronesian background, as we discussed, made it here. And there's different types of indigenous people here, and they're not all from the Bering Strait or Siberia. So we have that. Those are proven things. They even have the same canoe carving styles found over here in the Americas that they find in the Pacific Islands. So they had, and the same name, even it even had the same name. So researchers know that this is a thing, but the narrative from the scientists goes against it for now. They'll finally give it up though.
I've had it with European academic canon. I've seen. I'm about to put something in the jumbotron that I've seen up close. I've seen one of these up close. These are some metal netter, what the European calls hieroglyphs, because he likes naming shit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you zoom in on that picture, that meta netter is burnt into that stone with a laser. It's like burnt like 3D, like it's 3D in that fucking stone. I've
Mm-hmm.
touched it. I've touched this with my hands, and it's burnt into that stone. So who in the fuck had a laser 5,000 years ago?
E.T.
Agnes, you know what I'm saying? They ain't
No, come
telling
on now. You
everything.
know what they did was they rubbed their hands together, right? And they used sticks and rocks, and they just rub real hard. Come on now.
Real, real,
While
real, 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 real hard.
Come on now.
while wearing a loincloth.
Come
Yes,
on now.
all of that. Yes, we've been finding some things like this that are extremely jarring to scientists, and their way of dealing with it is to put it aside or either deny it. So, this guy found a footprint of a human being right next to a dinosaur at the same level of the fossil. Um, what do you call that? I forget. It's like levels. that you go down?
The KT boundary.
I don't know. It's something. It's like different levels. It says how old something is. I'll think of it in a minute. Anyway, they found it, and then they're like, "No, no, it's a mistake." I start freaking out, and so they said, "You have to find another one somewhere else." So he found out that there was yet another one way over in some other part of the world. He goes over there and says, "Here's another one." And they were like, because they set the boundary, like, we'll acknowledge this if you find another one. And he found another one, and they still said no. It's like, oh my God, you do not want people and dinosaurs to exist together. Because okay, so here's why. Okay. There's a lot of reasons why, but just think about everybody who wrote a book based on the fact that dinosaurs were at one period and people were at another. They'll all look stupid. You know how many people wrote uh books about Darwin and books about all these things we're talking about? They wrote books about it. They staked their careers on it, and now we're coming and throwing a monkey wrench in it by saying, no, people were riding dinosaurs. They got pictures of people riding them. And I was like,
Wow.
well, y'all got that. I'm going in my hut. Thank you very much. I am not riding that, feathered or not.
Not a chance. I put some along that lines in the jumbotron, the Olmecs. You have PhDs that argue up and down that the Olmecs weren't black. What do they say? They were. They one of the excuses they say the Olmecs were making sculptures of babies.
This is so irritating because they're the ones that brought it up.
Right.
European researchers, anthropologists, archaeologists are the ones that said they were black. They said
Hmm.
this, right? And this is how this works in this branch of science. Honest researchers will tell the truth. They'll reconstruct a head. It'll say, hey, looks like a Negro. They will do all of these things, right? And they'll tell the truth. And then some corrupt horde of imbeciles will come in and start tearing it apart. They did this with the Limba tribe. They took a bona fide DNA test, and it did, in fact, show that they had this Cohen Priestley DNA that means that they are Jewish, high levels of Jewishness in their genetics. And that was in 1999, right? And then some group came along and said, "Oh no, that test was wrong," and then they somebody spilled some Kool Aid into the thing, and they had all kinds of excuses, and somebody did it again, and it came back even worse. So the best thing to do is leave them alone. They're
Well,
Jewish. You're
isn't it?
not. Get a
Is
life.
isn't it crazy? Because like the story of like the missing Yemeni children, and how like there was a whole scandal of like how these corrupt adoptions were going, and all of that was done just so they could like put into the genetic pool some type of that bloodline, right? But it's just really nefarious, and it's just like crazy how they gaslight people when they say like, "Oh, we're not white, we're Jewish," but it's just like, but you recognize that you're Ashkenazi, that you can't keep lying on that, and that's literally Jewish, or excuse me, white people from Europe.
I'm about to post
Yeah.
one of the quote unquote PhD scholars who's made it allegedly made it his life mission to discredit the technological advances of the Egyptians, the Kemites, and
What? The
oh
technical.
yeah, yeah. Look at this joke. Just look if you see his picture. That's all you need to see. His name is Dr. Flint Dibble, and he goes on TV shows saying, "No, no, no, no. They didn't have tools. That sophisticated 3D that tool that looked like it was burnt with a 3D printer is a result of water erosion."
What? Wait. He's talking about those laser cuts you just showed us.
Even worse, he was talking about the
Oh,
cuts.
he's on mega crack. They got mega
Well,
crack now.
well, no, it's like it's the whole the some what I'm trying to tell y'all. Some of these academic disciplines are like cults, and either it's some one or two things. I don't know what the truth is, but either they're hiding the truth, which I doubt. I don't think they know. But it's a possibility. Or B, they're trying to keep their relevancy and power because they've written a whole canon, academic canon, that gives theories as to why the pyramids are there and this
Hmm.
whole theory of history for the last 10,000 years.
We were never
And
Th-
supposed to read. That's the thing.
What,
right,
We were never supposed to be able to
that's
read.
right. Reading is for the rich people and the privileged, not all of us.
That's true. But the technological findings that we're discovering, such as holes that are bored through that you've seen, you said you saw them on it, the holes that are bored through the pyramids and through rock, vitrified rock, like these technological advances rewrite history. So if they had tools, sophisticated tools back then, that negates what your father, Flint Dibble's dad, was an archaeologist. It negates what his colleagues wrote about the Egyptians not having tools
Right.
and using. Yeah, so it's all like to protect the lie. It's so disgusting.
It is. They have to protect their books that they wrote and all their papers and things that they were. Just imagine that if you were a Darwin lover and you write a book about how great he is, and then we say, hey, no, he was wrong. The things don't become more complex over time. In fact, here's an example of something becoming less complex over time. Here's a fossil record to that. If you say that, and then they're going to fight you. They're going to hand wrestle you because now they look like idiots. Darwin made a lot of people look like idiots, but there's nothing wrong with his work. He just was wrong about certain things. It's not like the
Certain
whole thing
things,
is wrong. He had good
but
ideas.
there goes the arrogance. It's like it's certain things. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right. He gave
Well,
an idea of how things work. It's just not perfect.
Midwest, talk to us. Midwest, can you hear us? Going once, going twice.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you, man. Y'all kept going on, and I had to let this. I had to get my cat. Just left my got on my place.
Okay.
Uh, Yo, so hey, Wani, I definitely want to hear more about those Vikings from your family. I mean,
I ain't
associated,
no backing.
closely.
I ain't no vacuum.
No, I'm just
They were. They're supposed to be like black
no, I
Vikings though, and
have
I
a
and
little bit of Swedish admixture because of my grandfather living on that settlement the whole time.
yeah, I wanted to hear about that. But if you go to Whole Foods right now, there's in a National Geographic magazine, you see all this Viking stuff, and so I just happened to look
Now,
at
the
it
Vikings
because I did.
say, now let's not go crazy. The Vikings are not black. Relax, everybody.
No, I didn't say that. I was saying
Shh.
that I think there are some.
Relax.
There's
We're
like a group.
suffering from Afrocentric disease. We must relax a bit. Here's what it is. You can go on their site. They admit freely that some of the Vikings were not white and some of them were of African descent and Asian descent. See? See how easy it
Yeah,
is when people tell the truth and we don't have to look crazy? They
yeah,
didn't
but
care who joined up to be a Viking. And some
I get
see?
that. I was gonna say they in the magazine there was a map and the where the Vikings all traveled, and they went everywhere. Like they're literally
They did.
everywhere.
And that was so funny because
And
they had this big collection of monsters that they said existed in the waters. Well, what are the I gotta go look it up. But it was like a lot of sea serpents and giants on the land. And I said, if you believe in all these sea serpents and giants and all these things coming up out of the water and on foreign lands, why the hell do you keep traveling? I'd go hide up in a tree if I believed all that.
Now
well,
y'all want to hear some wild shit. Let's go there. According to Grant Hancock, quote, we have evidence that they collected and studied in the Great Library of Alexandria, Egypt, and the compilations of them were made by the geographers who worked there. So, long story short, um, Alexander the Greek and his minions broke into the Library of Alexandria and stole all our shit. Some of the shit that he stole was maps. And one of these maps was a map of Antarctica, which I'm about to put in the Jumbotron. It's called the Perry Reese map. And tell me why this map of Antarctica got neighborhoods on it. Neighborhoods and elephants walking around.
Oh
Oh
my gosh,
goodness.
we be looking into the same stuff. Oh my. Okay, yes.
Yeah, see, I don't know what's going on Antarctica. It is a very, very weird place.
Well, I
And they
think I
have maps of it, so I'm not understanding what's going. Remember that Turkish guy that had a map that showed the coastline of it?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So this is the Perry Reese. You can look it up and if you want to know more about it. This is some real shit. If you zoom in, there are elephants in this motherfucker. Well, the theory is the going theory, and I believe this theory is the Young Andreas on Deep Impact theory. There was a comet, or some people say a series of comets. One of them was over a mile across, which is not big. I mean, just think of a mile across comet could do some shit like it hit the Earth with such ferocity, such force that it knocked the planet off its axis. So the Antarctica used to be in direct sunlight, and it got hit so hard that Antarctica got knocked into the cold. So that theory makes sense to me. That Antarctica used to be a very sophisticated but hustling and bustling landmass. That would make sense why no military. Do y'all know the militaries of the world will not let you go to Antarctica? They won't let you.
I
Wanda,
would.
you've been.
I
Oh,
would
Well,
tell
have.
us.
I think Antarctica is the Area 51 because hear me out. Because think of when we were talking about dinosaurs, this, that, and the third. Um, think about the Game of Thrones and the White Wall or the White Walkers, right? And like the whole theory behind that, right? When you got new eyes, you look at things differently. And the Transformers, I just watched with my cousin because we were talking about this as well when they brought in the dinosaur transformer and the pterodactyl transformer and how they had to go through the whole storyline of them falling onto the earth and then them knowing and trying to isolate this quote unquote matter and study it. Like, I think Antarctica is the real Area 51.
Well, well, I'm not gonna speak on Area. I'm not gonna affirm or deny Area 51. But what, Wanda? You said you've been to Antarctica. I haven't been.
Yeah,
What?
I did.
Educate me.
It was cold. My eyelashes froze and my eyeballs froze, but you can stay you can stay outside for about 45 minutes at a time before you just have to go back in. It's cold, but it's fun. It's one of the most exciting places that I've ever gone. I like going to Arctic regions, but they're cold, so they need to stop doing that. Um, I did see a creepy guy up there, and he was very tall and weird, and everybody that saw him got creeped out. So I
Like
don't,
weird vibes.
yeah, weird vibes.
He wasn't human.
Yeah,
He was
that
a White Walker.
Wani, you saw a slender man. That's who you saw.
he was tall, he was slender. Um, he was just standing around looking weird, leering like, "Ugh, you're the tourist." And they just hustled us. There is very controlled. You felt like you're in the military.
Right.
Don't be walking around. Don't
Don't
mill
look.
around. Everything is organized. We're walking you over to the little post office. We're walking your ass back over to here. Get your ass
Weird.
back over there. Yeah, it was very much like a military uh thing, and a lot of people were complaining because it was very rigid and they didn't expect it to be that way.
Interesting. And all of y'all were civilians?
Yeah.
Interesting. They didn't want you to look at something. Hmm. Would they put y'all in platoons or some shit?
No, no, you live on the cruise ship, but you have to get on a Zodiac boat to go to the different islands to walk around.
Okay.
So every time you go somewhere, you get on the Zodiac boat and then you just go to the island, look around the different ones, then you go back to the cruise ship.
And you didn't see anything kind of funny down there?
Just that man.
Hmm.
And they had a military attitude about things. I had fun with the captain of the ship. He was showing me, how it worked. And I think he was just trying to terrorize me the whole time because he was like, if this ice wall gets closer together, we'll be trapped in here and you'll be. It was like, will you shut up and drive?
Yeah.
He was really, he had that captain thing. I mean, I bet that man's great 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 grandfather was a captain. He looked just like a Greek captain, like Ernest Borgnine. It was crazy. I was like, why do you look like Ernest Borgnine?
Did he have a gray beard?
With the curly hair. My bad.
No, just go look at an old picture of Ernest Borgnine. He looks just like him. And he was Greek. And he had the same attitude. It's like a rough attitude that I guess you have to have if you're going to sail through all those icebergs. I said, wait a minute. You say we're sailing through icebergs? Because it's an icebreaker ship. And one iceberg took down the Titanic, and I'm supposed to feel relaxed.
Mm-mm. I hadn't seen this dude in so long. I looked up Ernest Borgnine.
That's 1970s.
Hey, check this out, 80s baby. You know what popped up when I looked up Ernest Borgnine?
What?
Airwolf. Airwolf was badder than a motherfucker. Anybody here remember Airwolf?
No, I just remember him on Flight 409. I mean 401, where the
Somebody, I said, did anybody remember Airwolf?
air. Well, I know the show, yeah, but I didn't watch it.
I did. That shit was off the
Is
chain.
it like an action show?
Yeah, it was some special
See,
helicopter.
I
And
did see that's when my girl hormones kick in. If it starts getting action, I go out of the room unless it's a sport. I don't know what's wrong with me.
and of course, Ernest Borgnine was a commanding officer on it.
He's got that commanding officer attitude.
But he has a naval commander. His build is like Navy commanding
Hmm.
officer.
Did you see that movie Flight 401 where they died on the ship and he kept showing up as a ghost? They had to literally oh sorry, on a plane. The plane crashed
Mhm.
and the plane was so haunted that they had to remove the things. Okay, so when the plane crashed, some of the stuff wasn't broken, like an oven and some other stuff. So they put it on a new plane, and everywhere they put the parts got haunted. So they had to, yeah, it was crazy. Of course, they said everybody was crazy. And he kept showing up in the oven, so they had to remove those. This is an actual story. They had to remove these appliances off of the plane because that stuff was like haunted.
All right, we got a new speaker. Be tall. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Couple questions. What's your lineage?
My lineage is Bahamian.
What does that mean?
Bahamian.
Educate us.
Bahamas.
Bahamas. So both your parents are from where in the Bahamas?
They are from Nassau, Bahamas.
Nassau. Okay, I've been to Freeport and Nassau. Okay. So what ethnicity is that? Because it depends. What ethnicity?
Uh, I guess. I mean, well,
I
racially, I mean, we
guess.
consider ourselves a black country. There
But
is. That's why there is black in the flag colors. But ethnically, I guess it would just be Bahamian.
What racial group does your parents fit in? Because it's a dumb. I've been all over Nassau. There are different races down there.
That's what I was saying just now, black.
So you're saying you're black?
Yes.
Okay. What's on your mind?
So no, I don't want to invade these spaces if I shouldn't be here. So I don't know. Are you all taking questions for people who might have a question about the topic?
I'm entertaining your question right now. Go ahead.
Okay, so I understand that your reparations is part of the Black American um I guess mission, but and that's good and that's constructive, but I think there's a problem. And I think the problem is as well as a couple problems, but I think one big problem stands in your way, and that's the out of wedlock birth rate, which is about 80%. What
Your
do you
whole
think?
island is a whorehouse. What are you talking about?
I just removed him, and we don't even
Your
know
fucking
nobody in this.
island is a whorehouse. Remove your ass the hell up out of here.
Yeah, none of us got time for that foolishness. I mean, I'm not even gonna waste my time talking about how raggedy Nassau was, and how Nassau was under like the dominant fist of the system of white
You
supremacy.
probably don't even know his dad.
I know. His daddy is some white boy that's running amok.
And we went to Freeport.
You know it.
We paid a dude $10 to literally catch a fish, beat the living shit out of it, and like fry it in a garbage can. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Excuse me? He did all that?
Yeah, $10. He
How
caught a fish
rude.
and then fucking beat the shit out of it and cooked it in a garbage can. So get out of here, kid.
What is wrong with these people?
They obsessed with us. He's expressing anger because he's not gonna get
There's a
reparations.
couple of things wrong with it. I was about to go off then, but I said, let me control myself. I need to bliss out.
Oh, Theta State.
Yes.
You gotta teach me how to do Theta State, Wanting.
I have to
I need to
lower the
meditate.
tone. I have to lower the tone because I already knew it was coming. There's a couple of things wrong with. Yeah, here's what's wrong. Get out of my country. That's
Yep.
it.
All up in our business, trying to figure out what our claims are. Like he needs to go ahead and go to CARICOM and go to England and work on his claim.
Oh,
Anyway.
go ahead, seventh.
Thank you. We were talking about the Egyptians earlier, and it's obvious to me that the Egyptians knew about North and South America because they did toxicology tests on mummies,
Mm-hmm.
and they found traces of coca and
Mm-hmm.
nicotine, and these are New World plants. And they tried to say, well, the mummies, the samples were contaminated, but they did a retest in like a deeper part of the mummy, and it still came back positive. So yeah, the Egyptians, they knew about here. And Professor, you say that picture that was laser cut. I kind of see how the Egyptians could have done that. It would have been very. It would have taken a lot of skill, but I see how they could have made that. It's
How did
tough,
they
but
do it?
yeah, they had the technology to do that.
What do you, how did they do it? Do you know?
Well, from what I'm looking at here, it looks like they chiseled it, and uh, and to make it nice and smooth, to polish it, they could have just taken sandpaper. It would have taken a while, but yeah, that's how sculpting is done. Yeah, that's how they used to do it back then.
Well, I'm definitely not an authority. I could definitely argue about some of the big cut blocks that I've seen in
Yeah,
Bolivia,
I see
but
how they could
not
have
that.
done that too.
Not that. Oh, I don't see how they could have done that. Please tell us.
Okay, like for the big blocks, they could have used a copper saw, which now copper is soft. It's not going to cut granite and stuff
What
like
about
that.
the
So what
square
they would have done?
granite chairs
Yeah,
inside
yeah, yeah.
the?
Yes, ma'am. I'm getting
Okay.
there. So they would have taken like a copper saw, and they would have put sand in between the saw because the sand has little. harder. It because to cut granite, you need something that's as hard as granite or harder. And sand particles have little granite particles. And with that, yeah, you could have done that. That's how they did it. The Egyptians were smart people, and if they were committed, yeah, with enough time and effort, they would have done it.
You mean cut a granite chair?
Yeah, yeah, they could have. Yeah, they could have.
What
They
about
could have
moving
chiseled
that
it. They could have.
huge stone in Baalbek, Lebanon?
They could have used the mechanical advantage principle. That's how that's how blocking tackles and cranes work. You use the mechanical advantage principle. The Egyptians were smart people, so I'm pretty sure they knew about it,
Well,
and they probably used the wheel.
well,
Now,
my
I was just gonna say this is 1,650 tons for one brick. It's a big stone.
Yeah.
so look at the picture in the jumbotron and explain to me how the Egyptians bored perfect holes, and some of them bigger than this,
Okay.
perfect without a power drill.
Okay. What? Okay. To make like a perfect circle
Look
board,
at the hole
or which
in the
picture?
jumbotron, and this is a small one.
I don't think it's come up yet.
It has to pop up in a minute.
But if they made like a perfect circle hole, oh yeah, I see how they could have done that.
Well,
They probably took a copper
Mm-hmm.
uh,
tube and they put sand
A lot of
around
sand usage.
yeah, they and then they took sand and then they probably
No,
had like a
no,
bow
not at
and
all.
kind of like how to
no,
That's
there.
start fire.
We've
I'm not
li-
a. Go
we've
ahead, mom.
literally had engineers and
That's what I was about to say.
machinists to look at these things and say, no.
Exactly. She beat me to it. I've watched a special where engineer, a full civil engineer, went there and was overwhelmed. He looked at it with a microscope, and he's
That's his opinion.
well. I mean,
But
he
but
what?
he had peers. He had peers that corroborated it because they went on and they tried to see if they could reconstruct it. Am I right, Professor?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
the
because
Yeah,
dude,
I
what?
was
Yes,
see, I was
yes.
a nerd.
several people tried to reconstruct that, so I don't know why anybody would think anything different.
That's why I made the joke about the sticks and the rocks. I was being sarcastic.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how they would have
What,
done it.
what,
I can see that.
with this dude, he looked at it and examined it for 48 hours, and he said that whatever type of drill bored that hole did not move fast. He said it was some type of material that was so dense. It was some material they don't know of, and he said it was moving slow because there were no serrations, and if it was moving fast, it would have left serration. He had no. This dude's a
Yeah, that's why if you had a copper tube
not at all.
and you had the sand
He brought
as the
and he
abrasive,
brought up. He did bring that up. I remember him saying copper tube. He said impossible.
I mean, I would if it can be done. Seventh,
I see it
I
as
think
possible.
if it could be done, I think you could go really viral if you could reenact that for us.
Totally. Lee Roots, talk to us.
Hey, good evening. I'm so happy to be up here. I'm appreciate it. I didn't think I was going to get up here with all these people in here. But Wani, question for you, if you don't mind.
Uh, yes.
Yes. Was it true or not back in the day during the Egyptian time? And I think I can't remember if I saw it or what have you, but it, I saw the pictures of like a helicopter and the telephone or something like that on one of the walls inside the in one of the pyramids, and also there was some discovery when these archaeologists were going to bust through a door or something, and they found all this gold. With like, I mean, like it was. It's like they showed it for like like a brief, I'll say like a day or two, and then you never see nothing about it again because there was so many like statues and stuff behind underneath this rock, and everything like in perfect place. It was like I mean, it looked like a whole nother world inside this cave. And then I saw all the, it was like the picture of like a helicopter. I mean,
Well,
were they
it
flying?
does look it does look exactly like a helicopter. Can you there's a big echo. But
He's recording.
they say that it's it's not. So, I guess you can I don't know. It looks just like a helicopter. Maybe it's something else. I'm looking at it now. It looks like a helicopter.
Am
But
I right when they say um, there's really nothing new under the sun? So all this stuff that's kind of what we're doing is, I mean, we're not, I mean, we're talking on phones and stuff, but um,
I didn't see the phone, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. My God.
Hey, Professor, is that there's an echo? Is that you?
No, I muted. It's Lee Root, so I don't know why it's echoing when Wani talks, but I muted him.
if he's fine, I'll take it off.
Yeah.
When I
What we
look at
saying?
it, it looks like I wouldn't say it was a helicopter in a court of law. It does look like a helicopter, but it's on a slab with a lot of different things. So I don't know what it is. It's not
The
a
way they
bird.
explained it was they said that they just write over the old stuff. So that could have been what it was. And then also, the human mind will find things familiar to it where they may not be. Right. That's why sometimes you can see faces in like clouds and shit like
Yeah.
that. It's your mind connecting it.
I do believe that there was not was, but our previous civilizations that were harmed in cataclysms and they lost all the information and we have to start all over again. So that's why that steampunk stuff is fun because it's like, wait, this stuff is old, but it's new. You know what I'm talking about? Steampunk, it's old, but
Right.
it's new. I believe
Yeah,
there
I
are
love steampunk stuff.
right. I believe there are old things and they've found them, but they're it's just interesting to think that humans or human like individuals had these needs and they went about them and got them in different ways. So I'd be interested to see how a past civilization has designed something to fly, because I know that they did, or has designed some telecommunications or electricity or something like this. It would be interesting to see how they did that because we've got that what is that? They call it a computer. And they said finding this is like finding a jet plane in an Egyptian tomb. So we do have it, but they don't know what it does. They don't know how to use it because it's it wasn't created by humans. So we didn't create it that way. So when we decide to make something like a telephone or electricity or a plane, there's more than one way to make it. And we've had other people, this is another thing people don't give enough credit to. Other people in different countries have created things, and we have credit for creating some of those things. People created, there were two brothers in the Middle East that created a steam engine. So people were creating things and they went about it a different way. They just weren't in a popular country. They just didn't get credit. They just didn't mass market the idea. But humans can create things and they can use different methods to create them.
That's a fact.
Appreciate you answering my question. I appreciate it, and keep up this types of spaces because it's very enlightening.
Thank you.
I mean, don't they purposely like they have a lot of technology that they don't put out in mainstream, like on the market. They just like keep it for themselves and eventually like start to give it just like the telephone. Um,
Yeah, like the computer, they had that for years and they just used it for themselves in military applications.
Right. My dad was in the Navy during the Vietnam War, and he was talking about some avionics on an old Navy bomber from the '60s, an A6 intruder, and the avionics they had on that sucker. Basically, they had video games on that thing in the '60s. Like video games are old. The bomb guidance system was
Mm-hmm.
video game.
Yep.
a lot of the simulations they use are just video games too. Oh, also too, I thought it was interesting. I thought when Mikhail corrected me, I went back to the podcast that I had heard it or saw it from. I like to like listen to podcasts like when I'm cleaning or something. But had I gone to the actual live chat and the person didn't look to see that somebody had corrected it, they just talked about how he had like a stroke or something, but he was fine. But that was a while ago. But he didn't pass away. Noam Chomsky. Chomsky. So I thought that was. I was like, wow. I yeah. So I wanted to throw that in. It was random,
Yeah, Gnome's
but I
not
saw
trying to
Mikhail.
die.
Yeah, no, he's not because he. I mean, it's interesting too to think that like only so many people can speak this freely and like not be gone.
Right, brother Mikhail, what's on your mind?
Greetings, great, noble, black, beautiful ones. Thank you. Um, Still a little early here, and I'm just sort of getting my mind together. But I thought I'd jump in and build with the family real quick. Brother Professor, how are you?
I'm doing well, bro. Trying to figure out how the Egyptians or the Kemites bored holes into granite and how they cut 3D figures with a laser. What you know?
Man, with the ones who would be considered or were considered the threat.
Yeah. Dr. Chancellor Williams said Egypt is Ethiopia's oldest daughter. I like that he said that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you know something, Mikhail. You're holding out on us.
Well, the Bible says they used
I'm
a
reading directly
shamir.
from it. And of course, these are the words of Yehuti.
Come on with it. I was told that Tahuti um, was that the same as Tutmosis, and that became Moses in the Bible.
I don't know, but the Bible says that they used a shamir, which is that worm, and it's also a
Interesting.
jinn to build to build the temple. I don't know what that means.
Shamir. How do you spell that?
Shimer. It's some sort of worm. And then
Interesting.
again, it's also a jinn or a, what do you call it? A species of jinn? Because jinn have different groups or styles, not
Jin,
styles.
jinns are like demons, right?
I don't know. Kinda. Well, yeah, ultimately, because if you rub that lamp and you say, I want, you know, $1 million cash, you'll get $1 million and then you'll get a bill from someone where you owe, you know. $990,000. So they're not nice. Okay, I've seen enough. I've seen enough of their antics to know
You back, bro, Mikhail?
they were building these buildings. The one for Ball, um, Ball, Moloch, those guys in Lebanon, 16 tons. Like, I mean, 1,600. Yeah, no, 1,650 tons. That's what Baal wanted for his temple.
Wow.
That was just one block.
You already know what I stand with these blocks. I've seen a video that's you can't find anymore where a physicist used magnetism to alter the magnetic field around iron, and he turned iron into putty. So like, and
Oh.
I know from teaching physics, although I didn't teach it on college level, that physics departments across the country get all weird when you start, looking at magnetism. They teach they don't like that. So magnetism is a no-no. And what you bring up the Navy thing, that the Manhattan experiment, well, no,
Oh boy.
the Philadelphia experiment. My dad said
Hmm.
that shit was real.
It is real.
Wow.
They said they shouldn't have been walking around. If they said if they just stayed put, they wouldn't have got melded into the ship. Excuse me? How did
God.
they know they were gonna dematerialize? You didn't mention that.
Man,
Hey guys, you're gonna dematerialize, so don't walk around the ship. Yeah, I don't think they would have gone for that.
the military had an experiment during nuclear weapons where they got the army and they detonated a nuclear weapon, and well, once the detonation was over with and the mushroom cloud was ascending, they told about a fucking couple platoons of soldiers to walk inside the mushroom cloud to see what would happen. How dare they?
Of course, they always do that. They test everything on people without their permission because they're not going to get their permission. So, how did they explain what happened to all these men that were melded into the metal? Did they just say they died?
Oh my god.
I forget that part. Like, how do you explain all these people getting jacked up?
Yeah, I don't know.
Obviously,
They
something.
had brittle bones disease.
Oh my goodness.
Some bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm gonna say is my last duty assignment was public relations officer. That's all I'm gonna say.
They had sudden onset melding into the metal ship disease.
It was swamp fog that
Yep.
initiated with space gas, or I don't know.
I think Mikhail's having a technical problem. I can hear a lot of
Yeah,
scratchy
Mikhail,
sounds.
Mikhail, you having your thing is going on. Can you hear me, brother Mikhail? Until Mikhail comes back up, Hummingbird, what's on your mind? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going out of order. Son of the Sun, no, Son of the South Media, and then Hummingbird.
What's good, family?
What's up, man?
Yeah, I was just gonna add on to the cipher G. Y'all was talking about the gin and everything. Y'all kind of went a little far off that topic, but I was just gonna add on with that. Yeah, was talking about the jinn, but the jinn is a Islamic, ideology of a spirit that interferes with mankind. You got good and bad. So yeah, the jinn. If you think about the genie, like I think Oni Wani, pardon me, was saying that you rub the lamp and the genie comes out. But that is true. That's why they get gin, a genie. And then when you drink gin, when you get to the bottom of the bottle, that's where you get the gin, the spirit.
and they call liquor spirits. So yeah, I would just add on to the cipher with that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it,
No,
bro.
no problem.
Hummingbird, talk to us.
Hey, hey. So yeah, just to respond on the title of the space. It
Hold on.
seems
Hummingbird, stop right there. Couple questions for you, bro. What's your lineage?
I choose to not answer.
So why are you gonna speak on FBA lineage and you're not gonna identify your lineage? How's that work?
What does lineage mean?
What's your ethnic
Yeah.
group?
Why do you all of a sudden have a? Never mind.
I, I, I
That
stutter,
was
by the way.
random. Well,
Yeah, is it okay if I stutter?
No.
that's a troll.
Next.
Knock it the hell off.
That's called by. Didn't even get didn't we didn't even allow him to get his troll material off. Mikhail, talk to it.
Troll material.
Yeah, he didn't even have time to get like, don't play with me, man. Got time to play games. We talking serious business in here.
We're talking about helicopters in the uh, ancient times, people. We have serious business going on in here. No, they were flying something because they have too many of these geoglyphs uh, that you can only see from the air. Like somebody was flying something, but I don't know who was flying what at this point.
Oh, I think I showed y'all. I have some real old books, and then like 200-year-old books, and they got a map of the Earth in one of the books. I'm like, how the hell? And it's accurate. How the hell you had an accurate map of of the Earth?
They do.
Not to
I've
mention that they
seen.
got star constellations more
Yep,
accurate than the ones we got now with the Hubble telescope.
there you
Yep.
go. Somebody was flying around in something.
Somebody flew in something. Even that Betty and
The
Barney
thing that
Hill.
gets me is the Nazca lines.
That's what they found other lines now. They found a new one in Kazakhstan and they said that one is 3D. It's even it's different. So again, none of these people can fly and they can't do that on the ground. So I don't know how or what or why it's there.
Yeah, when I look at the Nazca lines, I see it's all flat. There's no mountains where you could see the thing. So, yeah, they may have had hot air balloons or something. I don't know.
Seven is not giving up nothing. I'm using him as my personal bounce ideas off. He's designated as my personal bounce ideas off because he's going to say no to everything and I'm not going to be able to have my head in the clouds whatsoever. I'm going to be both of my feet are going to be under the ground.
Right. Mr. Rasco, what's on your mind?
Oh, there we go. That's it. My mic's working now. What's good, family?
Oh
How
Lord.
Doing
you doing,
well.
Professor? How you
What's going
doing?
on? Nothing much, man. What's
I'm
going on?
good, man. I'm good. I'm good. How's my good friend on the spot?
Your accent is getting me mad.
Oh God, I've only just started. At least give me a minute.
Started.
Seriously. Now, you know what, Professor? I've got a question for you because a lot of people have been. I've got a question for you. What's this? I don't know. There seems to be quite a lot of disdain
A lot of it.
towards some of my African brothers in America. What's going on
Brothers.
now?
There's no V in brothers. That's
Uh,
problem number one.
I don't
Uh,
think there's no disdain. I travel to West Africa frequently. I think it's gorgeous. I think a lot of you are guys are interpreting disdain because we're delineating, which don't mean we have plenty of love. I got plenty of love for West Africa. It's Ghana and Togo are two of the most beautiful. Shit, Ghana probably was the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. Very
God.
wonderful people, but we're just saying we are who we are. We're delineating, and for some reason, the real question is why are some of our African cousins getting upset with us delineating? That's the real question.
But I think you're overstating
No, we're
the
not.
dislike that. to the blacks are for Black Americans. I think they love you. On the contrary, I think you guys have brought a lot to the world.
Well, of course
You're
we
regarded
have.
as heroes.
You wouldn't have any music if it wasn't for us, so duh.
Exactly, they love you. So I just don't see the same energy or the same level of antagonism.
Oh yeah, there's definitely antagonism. They've literally gone to um every time we discuss reparations, a bunch of foreigners get on the boards and try to derail them. So that's number one. They have run for office on the promise of getting rid of Black History Month. That's number one. They have run for office and won offices and said we need to forget about slavery while their raggedy asses are trying to get reparations from CARICOM. So, yeah, try it again. They are the ones who caused this problem, not us. We're responding. And they have a history of causing problems like, let me think, genocides against everybody and causing problems
Whoa,
wherever
whoa,
they
whoa,
go.
whoa, whoa!
Wherever they
Genocide against
go.
everybody.
Yeah,
Hey,
genocides against
hold
everyone.
that, hold that thought. Nikki or Warner, could y'all let Mikhail up? My thing's not working. It keeps
Okay,
saying error.
yes. So they go into other people's countries
Uh huh.
and they commit genocides against them. They
Really?
harass them in their countries and they commit genocides in their, yeah, really. And they commit
What's your
genocides in
what's
their
your definition?
countries. And they also
What's
commit
your
genocides when the white man tells them to do so, like in the
what's your
Congo,
definition of genocide? I mean,
killing a
that's a
bunch of
strong
people
word,
up
no?
into millions, killing
That's a
millions of
strong
people.
word.
It's a strong action.
So
Killing
what?
between 10
Like,
to 30 million people in the Congo just because a handful of Belgian people told you to?
and you think that there's
Yeah.
nobody, there was no puppet master behind in the background.
Well,
There were
then
no
you shouldn't be
Israelis and Americans
no puppet master.
providing
Right,
weapons to
right,
these different
shh.
rebel groups.
Right now, they have kidnapped 40,000 children and put them in mines to mine cobalt.
So let's hold on. Let's roll back for a second.
No, we're
When we
not
say
rolling
we,
anywhere.
who are we talking about? No, no, come on, because I just want to learn from you on the spot. I always learn from you when I'm talking to you. When I have a conversation with you, it's beautiful. So let's just
Mhm.
rewind back here for a second. When we say we, who are we actually talking about here?
Okay, so if we want to talk about Nigerians, we can discuss the fact that um, the people in the north like to go to villages and kill everybody and cut their heads off and tuck them nicely under their left arms and line them up.
You, you're painting a very dark picture of
And they
Nigeria at this
actually
point.
have pits of bodies. Well, then I
Dark.
shouldn't have seen the
Okay.
pits of bodies. I shouldn't have seen that, and then I wouldn't have had that. There's literally pits of bodies. So
Yeah. Well, for
let's put.
starters, Nigerians are not putting 40,000 Congolese kids in the mines. In fact, you probably
We didn't
find that the
say that.
money.
I said I'm working my way to the other area.
Oh, right, okay,
Now, the
cool, cool.
Congolese people are complaining to some of these big tech companies that they're not getting enough money for the cobalt that they're providing, right?
Right?
Okay, so my suggestion is that they pay actual men money to mine the cobalt and then tell AT&T and T and the rest of these people how much it's going to cost instead of enslaving little children in the mine, working them to death, stealing them from their parents, and then complaining and having the audacity to say we're not getting enough money.
I mean,
There's no
in a
puppet
perfect world,
there's no puppet master. That's just them.
so all these rebel forces that we have in Congo, you know, for
I'm not
starters,
talking about
hold
rebels.
on, hold on.
I'm not
Here's the
talking about
context. Do
no.
you know that? Do you
No, I'm not going to listen to the context. There's no
look? My
context.
question was, who
These
supplies those
people,
weapons? Where do they get the
these
weapons from?
these people have a history of not. respecting the liberty of human beings, of snatching
Really?
people, away from their lives, selling them, or holding them hostage as workers. And those are
Right.
children. They have a
The
history of
Congolese
it.
have got a
That's
history of
their
doing that, do they?
culture. That is their culture. It has nothing to do with the white people. White people are simply buying a product.
Wait,
And
what,
they,
granted, you have, listen, you've got people who are,
at this point, white people are purchasing a product. They could be told this is how much the product is going to cost, and they can have actual grown men.
it doesn't work that way in the real
Why
world,
not?
though, on the spot.
Why
Both
not?
you and me know that.
Why not? It
Because
works like that with
these
it.
people have entrenched their power for millennia. They've been doing this for a very long time. If you
No,
think
it
about it, post the
doesn't
First World
work because
War,
they're dealing
they
with
used
people that are
instruments,
dumb. They're dealing
instruments
with
like the
stupid
World Bank
people
and the
as
IMF
usual.
to exploit and
They're
extort these
not
countries.
exploiting anyone, they're just stupid.
Hey, that's the government, huh?
They're
That's the government, and
simply
these governments are
just
corrupt.
not,
The
they're
governments of these
simply
countries.
just not smart. They can tell them how much cobalt is. They don't
I
have
wish
to,
I,
they
I
don't
wish it
have
was
to.
that easy, my system, but it's not. It just isn't.
Then, well, they don't get
You
to
know what?
kill people.
Listen,
They don't get to kill
you know
people
that.
to give the white boy cobalt. And if they do, then I don't need to hear about it. Don't try to sell me on murder, sir. Don't try to sell me on genocide because I'm not listening to it. They have thousands of years of doing this and they never learn. They're cursed.
I posted the five conditions that fit for genocide identified by the UN.org, by the way.
And the last time the white boy wanted some rubber tree plants, these numbskulls first from Nigeria, then from Sierra Leone, and then they started using local Congolese people to chop people's hands up, kill them, killing between an estimate 10 to 30 million people. That is a hell of a lot of people.
You've been
Okay?
watching too many movies, too many
They
No,
they
really bad
sell
No,
they
horror
that's
sell
no,
movies.
true.
they sell
it's
Bad.
not a
chocolate
No,
candy.
movie.
I know.
They
It's the
sell
biggest
little
genocide
chocolate
that people
candy
don't talk
hands.
about. 20 million,
Now,
21 million Congolese have died since
okay,
1996. I'm very
let
aware.
me. Okay, so here's the issue. I went online and I said, I'm going to get a picture of these dirty, filthy white men that were cutting everyone's hands off and butchering and throwing everybody into pits. And you know what I saw?
Obviously, it's not. The
I
man in Zeus don't
saw
do that, do
I
they?
saw
They've got no need to.
militaries. I saw a military called Force Publique that was all African men.
And who funds for public?
All
Who
African
funds these
men.
military groups?
It
Of course,
doesn't
it'll be
matter.
all African men doing
It,
Africa.
doesn't
Resco,
matter.
it
Don't think
doesn't
they stole
matter.
money.
It,
What
it
are they,
yeah,
prostitutes?
yeah, that's
But
the whole
yeah,
point
they
is you
are pretty much.
shouldn't.
What
They're
do you
prostitutes.
want?
That's what they are.
What do they
They
want money for so hard?
basically we've got a bunch of corrupt leaders
I
who don't
don't
really
care.
care
What
for the
does that have
people.
to do
But
with the guys that were cutting everyone's hands off and butchering? That has nothing to do with it. They could run
it's the same,
away.
same thing as the soldiers that were killing a million people in Iraq.
They could run away. They could
It's the
leave.
same thing.
That's
These
their
are just
own
paid.
group. Do they know
These
what
are
they're
just paid
doing?
pawns, though.
That's their own group. They're killing their own group.
So was
And I get that.
Hotel Rwanda somebody imagination? Did they just pull that one? The Rwanda genocide? Was that just like they
But the
just made
actual film or the genocide
the
itself?
genocide itself?
No, that was a tragic thing. It
Right.
was a tragic event.
So
Well, these people have a
But
lot
but
of
this is not
excuses.
exclusive. These tragic events are not.
It doesn't matter. We're talking. You asked us about Africa. You want
If
to
we
talk
if
about
should
Ukraine
we,
and
if we look
Russia
at them,
butchering each other? They're
if you want
leaving
to do
pits.
if you want to do proper,
Russia and Ukraine are leaving pits of bodies, and we're going to be investigating that for the next 30
there
years.
you
They're
go. So this
leaving
is not
pits.
exclusive to just Africa, though, is it?
It's definitely not exclusive to Black Americans because we leave no pits of bodies. Thank you very much.
I mean the Herero and the Nama. I mean the South Africa. The genocide happened there. I mean they. It's just there's so much history of that there.
Yeah, but this is not exclusive to these people. You're making it sound
I
like
know.
just
I'm just. I
because.
Well,
just named a different
Well,
region. I just named South Africa.
the gentleman's premise is not really panning out. His argument is that the government corruption is causing the genocide, and that money is funding it. Well, these the
And,
group
and
the groups hold on, the groups of people who's accepting the money don't have to accept the money. You know,
that is point
can
taken. That's
you
a fair point.
explain? Here's another point. Goes to my general feeling of disgust. Okay, this is why I have a general feeling of disgust. The attitude is that I get to just take a child, throw him into a mine, and they can't do anything, and then I have the audacity to try to sue because I'm not getting enough money from the slave labor. Part of my ancestry has been harmed by these very people. And I don't like their
facts.
attitude, okay? I don't like their attitude at all. They do a lot of things. And one of the other things that I've noticed
So
Africans
hold on.
doing
So you
is that they formed,
are you
when a white tourist comes to town, they form a line so that they can offer their children up for sex. Okay? And that's not exclusive to them either because they do
the
that in Bangkok.
the
They
sex
do that
work is
in
everywhere?
Bangkok, Thailand, but you don't have to do it. You don't have to participate in it. You don't have to line up in a big long line to let your child be molested. That's a personal choice. That's not the government.
I agree, and I
That's
think that's
not
wrong.
the government. That's
I
not
agree,
anything. And
what
what
you're
are these
taking is
dusty?
you're
What are
taking.
these? And it's for £2 sterling. So what are these dusty ass broads doing with £2 sterling so hard that they
Well,
need to have their
there's dusty
children
ass broads
raped?
in Brooklyn, love.
What?
There's dusty ass broads in Brooklyn. There's dusty ass broads everywhere. What
Yeah,
you're doing
that's
is
you. We
you're
don't live
taking
in
a
Brooklyn. We don't live
you're
in
taking
Brooklyn, dumbass.
that
That's your dusty ass people. We don't live in
that was
Brooklyn.
just
We
an
moved
analogy.
the
I was
hell
giving you an
away from your
example. There's
raggedy
all right,
ass.
okay. There's dusty ass broads in Amsterdam. How about that?
Well, that's still you. We don't live in Amsterdam, so shut up.
Okay. But what I'm trying to say is you taking a
You're
small group of
dusty all over
people
the place.
and
You're
then
you're just dusty.
you blanket labeling them. You
Yes, I
extrapolating
am.
that
Yes, I
small group
am.
of people
Yes, I am.
and saying that everyone who's
And
Congolese is like that. Well, that's not the
there's
case,
no
though, is it?
excuse. There's no excuse for the general acceptance of taking people's liberty and selling your children. There's no excuse. That's a collective attitude and a collective culture that's been going
Listen.
on for
I get that.
thousands
Of
of
course, there's no
years.
excuse, but you cannot blame each and
I
every
just
Congolese
did.
person
I
for their
yes I can.
actions of a
Yes I
small group
can.
of
Yes I
people.
can. They should
You know,
demand
who are
more.
probably some sort of
Yes I
mafia
can.
gang,
Yes
and
I
they're
can.
probably criminals.
Okay.
I cannot say that. Okay, let's say for example, there's shooting in Chicago, and there's a bunch of, let's say,
Show me a line of black American women waiting to sell their child to some white tourist. We
You
don't
won't
even
find
have
it.
you don't even
no,
have sex tourism over here like that. Whatever we have, they have
no,
to
and
hide
that's
it.
wrong.
You know
And
why they
listen,
have to hide it? You know why they have to hide the sex tourism if they have any over here? Because it's not acceptable. Okay? It's not acceptable
listen, there's a whole
collectively.
bunch.
It's not acceptable collectively, but it is acceptable to your group collectively to do that.
Well, that's what do you mean, my group? That they probably have
Oh,
got
you're
a much more
British.
closer
You're
relationship to
British, so
you
you're
than
not
they do
that group
me.
anymore, huh? You're
What do you
British
mean,
now.
my?
You're British now. That's all you groupie. You sip some
No, no.
tea.
Let's explore
You
this.
sip some tea,
Let's explore
bruh.
this. They're from my continent,
All you have to do is
yeah,
drink
and
some
they're
Earl
black, but they're
Grey,
not
and these people
migrants.
think that they're
Black
not
people are not
African
monolith.
anymore.
There's 54 countries in Africa. We're not monolith, are we?
Yeah, you are.
Well, no,
Yeah,
we're not.
you really are. Because
No, we're not.
you do the same stupid things with white people, getting on
What?
your knees, selling your children, acting a
Well,
fool.
that's just
Yeah, you're a
ridiculous.
monolith. You're a
Well, that's
monolith. You all sold slaves if you could.
come on, onesie, come
Trans-Saharan
on. You're
slave trade,
smarter than that. You know you.
trans-Saharan slave trade, transatlantic slave. Yeah, you're a monolith. That's why
Well,
people
no, we're not
refer to
monolith.
you. That's why people refer to you as a group, with the exception of there is. a lot of history in Ethiopia that I will acknowledge, and in a few places. But yeah, for the most part, you're a monolith. You have the same
No, we're not a monolith.
mindset. You
Because
do the same things.
if
You
you
run
take
over
somebody from
to,
South
you
Africa,
go over to Britain. You start sipping some Earl Grey, and you think you're white. Coming up in here with your hey, bruv.
no, actually, yeah, I'm black.
No,
Black
you're
as they
not.
come.
No, you're not. Black is not based on the
Oh, come
shade. You're not black.
on.
You're
I mean, me
British,
and you
remember?
know, me and you could be cousins. Actually, we probably family.
No, we're not.
I bet you. I bet you.
Well,
If you
then
check
I
your
will
DNA, I
have
bet
that
you
part of
we're
my
related.
genetics removed
I
with
bet
the
you and
abalone
me are like
knife.
cousins.
I'll scrape it off. I will
And you know what?
scrape it
I'm
off.
actually thinking of. I'm actually thinking of I'm thinking of migrating to the states. And I'm thinking
Come
sometime in
on
January,
by.
I'm hoping to come and
Come on
see you.
over.
You know, we can spend
So
some
you can
time. We
get,
can chill,
yeah, come
and we
on
can
by
talk
so
this
you can
over.
be
He
deported.
want that green card. He want that green card.
Well, you're not gonna,
90
you're
Day
gonna get
fiance.
deported.
90 Day
Oh,
Fiance.
Jinx, she owe me a soda.
All right,
Nah,
ladies and gentlemen.
I'm okay where I am. But nah, Professor, thanks for letting me come on your space and have a bit of a chin wag.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Anytime.
Chinwag, oh my
I
goodness. You
appreciate
pick
that.
up all of the
I just
sayings.
want you guys to understand that Africans,
Chinwag.
they love you a lot.
No,
Just
you don't.
tone down the disdain a bit. Do you know what I mean? Just
No, you
cut
go
it back a bit.
first. You
Hey,
tone
bro,
it down.
a real talk. It's kind of hard to hear somebody with an English accent tell me about morality. I want to. Let's see. We're about to shut the space down. I got an early morning lecture. Let's go to Brother McHale and we'll give Stacia the last words. Go ahead, Brother McHale, if his space is acting right. Brother McHale's space has been acting up. The space has been acting up today. Stacia, go ahead. Okay, are you going? Is he going ahead? Go ahead. Can y'all hear McHale?
No, not yet.
Okay,
How about now?
I got you, bro. You good?
Yes.
You
Hello?
went away, bro. His space is acting up. Go ahead, station. We'll come back to McHale.
Well, I was going to say something about, well, first of all, hello. Um, but I was going to say something about what Mr. Resco was talking about, but instead, I'll just focus on the topic of how is degeneracy in FBA culture manufactured. And of course, it is manufactured by um, the uh, how can I put it? At the global white supremacy power structure and the structure, of course, within the United States. And they also use not only sometimes our own people, but these new outside cultures or these immigrants coming in to manufacture it as well. And an example of that would be that Good Times cartoon reboot. The writers, the people involved in that, they were the primarily, I think one was Nigerian and one was Latina. And, they basically took a bunch of horrible stereotypes about us and tried to create this show and tried to use a show that was beloved historically, back in the 70s about black and a family that was struggling, but they always had dignity. In fact, you're seeing a lot of these shows pop up now where I'm like, oh, here's a new show. Let me check it out. And then you start watching it and you're like, what the hell is going on here? And then when you start looking into the names and the credits of, who's the writer, who's the producer, they have like a really sketchy, well, I don't want to say sketchy, but they have a non FBA background, but they're trying to write about um, FBA people. And I'll land there.
And that proves our point that we went back earlier. What a great way to end the space. Back to Sexy Red. We said, how is degeneracy created in FBA culture? If y'all go through the Jumbotron, scroll to the beginning, we show that degeneracy is done with operant conditioning. Um, Operant conditioning is positive reinforcement introduced to increase a behavior, and negative reinforcement introduced to decrease the behavior. To recap, we looked at Sexy Red's uh, F My Baby Daddy song to show that in every way, this song uses negative operant and classical conditioning to introduce the idea that black men, are useless in the community, and degeneracy. I forgot what Kanye said, but he summed it up better than I'm doing. But uh, in the song, she says "F my baby daddy." In the beginning of the song, classical conditioning is done. There's a gong or some type of bell that sounded like middle C to me, which studies have been done. That's the most pleasant sound to the human ear to get your attention. And that song begins the process of classically and operantly conditioning degeneracy in the black community. I like that Stacia brought up good times, because the new good times, the unbalanced good times, completely operantly and classically conditions degeneracy in our community, wherein the good times that I remember when I was a real little boy um, had balance. I was real young, but I remember somebody on there was very intelligent and smart, and I forgot who it was, but there was JJ on there. He was the degeneracy factor, but there was, like Tariq Nasheed said, balance. Whereas now the balance element has been taken out of our entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, I enjoyed y'all, and we will continue this another day. I learned a lot. Until next time, peace out. Any last words, Wani?
Good night, everybody.
Nikki, last words? Well, all right, y'all.